Well, folks, your Iowa Hawkeyes are victorious tonight. Final score of 47-7. A win over the UMass Minutemen under the lights of Kinnick Stadium. We are here talking about it for the next 2+ hours at about 9:56 p.m. Central Time here on Saturday, September 13th. Your Hawkeyes are 2-1, a dominating win where Iowa covers the spread and Iowa hits the over. These two teams, I should say, hit the over. And we got lots to talk about. Improved offensive showing without questions, especially through the air, although I think there's still plenty of room for improvement. We will talk about that as well. We'll be joined by Coach John Patterson, who will be he's actually making his way back en route to his home base there in Iowa City. He stays always stays until the final whistle is blown. That's just how Coach Patterson is, whether it's a 4-point game or a 40-point game. So we're here to talk to you. I am with you here for the next 30 to 45 minutes. My guess is it won't take quite as long for Coach Patterson to get back tonight, given the, a lot of people left early. Let's just say that. So understandably so. I'm one that is like Coach P. I would never leave early from an Iowa game. That's just how I am, whether I'm in a press box or whether I'm in the crowd. So, but it's good to talk about a comfortable win and an Iowa team now that will move into Big Ten play 2-1 and playing better football than they were a week ago. That is positive. Folks, before we get to our first caller, and there's several ways for you to interact this evening. If you're new to the show, we are here every single week talking about Iowa football after every single game. I know it's late. I know it's a blowout. I know it's Saturday night, but folks, you can interact with us a couple of different ways. There's a live chat here on YouTube. If you're listening to this after the fact, you can't interact with us live, but you can still leave a comment on YouTube or on your favorite podcast platform if you're listening on Spotify, Apple, etc. Also, if you're new, we have a phone line, 515-635-1601. If you want to chat with us, you can also call via StreamYard for free. You'll basically have to sign in either Facebook or Google. Very simple to do that. And you can call in with your picture on, your video on, or off. Either way works. And if you want your comment displayed and discussed, then leave a super chat. We are going to have the goal of the $200 goal. If we can hit $200, I promise people I will shave tonight. So I'm prepared to do that. We've worked at that. We've been close a couple of times. We've been close. I feel like we're going to hit that here in the first half of the season. But that's our goal. We got to figure out unique ways to generate funding here from the Hawkeye of the Storm. But all of your donations are appreciated. There's several ways you can do that in addition to supporting our sponsors. We've got links to PayPal, Venmo, Cash App. We've also got a new Discord channel, Discord network, where you can communicate with myself, Kyle Spence, ahead of time, ahead of the games, and even during the games. It's $5 a month, $50 for a year. You can pay that in full. Super simple. And we eat the fees through Venmo, Cash App, PayPal. Basically, just label your donation Discord, and you'll get in. You'll get a personal invitation to our Discord server, courtesy of From the Hawkeye of the Storm and your donation. So thank you in advance for doing that, considering that. And, of course, this show has always been about you, the fan, and getting you involved and getting you in touch with the experts, not me, namely Coach Patterson, Kasheen Alexander, Coach Close. And so this is another way where we're trying to get you an up-close and personal experience as it relates to Iowa athletics. So let's get to our first caller of the night. We've got several people who called in early. Always appreciate that. Get us set early. So let's go to Alex, who I know is a married man and probably can't stay up late. So Alex, unlike normal, let's get you in here early so we can respect your wife.
Oh no, she's really actually supportive of this. She's always like, "Oh, you're doing your call-in show," and so I found a good one. I found a good one that lets me nerd out on my Hawkeye football. So
that is a good one.
Yeah, I wasn't able to join last week. We were at the Dells with my son's birthday. So obviously, unfortunately, I was able to listen to the game. She let me listen to it. I had an earbud in walking around through the Dells. Obviously, the game didn't go the way we wanted to, but yeah. So to start off, first off, congratulations to Kurt, 206. I know it would have been really nice to get it last week against Iowa State, a rival, but I guess there is something about it being at Kinnick. So congratulations to him. Next thing, obviously want to say thoughts and prayers to TJ McGee. He's on that 95-yard punt return. He's the one that got, from what the broadcast had, hit in the neck. He got kind of shoulder checked by one of the Iowa players and ran into one of his own guys. So obviously they released a statement, UMass did, saying that he is moving his extremities. They're taking him to the hospital for a further evaluation. So obviously hope him for a fast recovery. Hopefully it's nothing serious and he gets better soon. So
by the way, a lot of injuries for UMass down the stretch. I feel bad for them. And I don't, sometimes just things happen. I don't want to just indict the, training and conditioning staff, but just unfortunate. I mean, you're getting blown out. You're getting taken to the woodshed, which we expect. By the way, this isn't a surprise. We all expected that. The line was 35.5 for a reason. This is a UMass team that's in full rebuild mode, and they've been in rebuild mode for years. But a new head coach, it's just unfortunate they lost a bunch of guys. They were already down players heading into this game. A couple of guys.
Quarterback, I know.
Quarterback was out. Had a couple of receivers. I think at least one of those played tonight. But they were just down a lot of people already. It's just unfortunate to see so many injuries. And a couple of guys on Iowa side, they got hurt as well. But you just don't want to see that in a blowout. But it's the nature of a collision sport.
Yeah. But I think that shows the disparity between, where you got your P5 schools. And I know UMass was independent. I think they joined, was it the MAC?
They joined the MAC in July. Yep, they're in the MAC.
Yeah, I can't remember if it was the
MAC. It doesn't feel like they're in the MAC.
No.
But they are in the MAC. Yeah.
So yeah, but I think that's where that disparity came in. You just based on, who they can get in, NIL and all that stuff. So, but getting into some of the game notes I thought they played a near perfect first quarter. They missed a point after, and then 2 incompletions. So the second quarter, let's just say it was a second quarter. One punt tonight by Iowa, and it was not a good punt. It was the punt that got blocked. And I think, Kurt Ferentz talked about special teams last week about how it didn't help. I think Weegan had a rebound game. Granted, you always have to take the opponent into consideration, but it's one of these opponents where you got to get that confidence of like, okay, last week was a fluke, moving forward, and he showed, why he was return specialist of the year last year. That 95-yard one was just amazing. First and foremost, you thought like, oh crap, you kind of had visions of Iowa State with Willie Mays catch, and he made something out of nothing. So great job by him. Mark,
let me just say real quick, just to interject, and you can keep going with these notes because I appreciate them. But I'll give myself a little credit on there. I called for a big game from Caden. I talked about that in the pregame. But special teams has been, these last 2 weeks, LeVar's got some work to do. They had problems with snaps early. You talk about the PAT. If you go back and look at the snap on the second PAT that was good, it was a bad snap. So they got to.
I noticed that too.
Yeah, they got some things there. Like they played really well week 1 against Albany. I thought they cleaned things up well in the last 3 quarters against Iowa State last week. But let's not forget, Caden struggled the entire game. Couldn't get anything going. I'm not saying that's all on Caden, but he played really. Punt return game was obviously phenomenal. He had was it a 34-yard kick return today? But again, some long snapping issues on field goals, just total breakdown. I don't know what happened. I mean, go back and look at what happened with the punt that was blocked that turned into the only score of the day for UMass. Because UMass didn't move the ball. I mean, this is a UMass team that was totally inept offensively, and I hate to say that about them, but they were. And
the only time they moved it was when Iowa had their third stringers in at that point. And I think
they wouldn't have gotten to triple digits yardage wise if it weren't for the fact that they were down 40. So but LeVar's got to figure that out because it's been obviously a unit that we expected to be rock solid basically everywhere, but they've got some things to figure out heading into Big Ten play.
Yeah. One rushing touchdown today, too, and it was by Mark Gronowski. Everything was all through the air, and except for Caden Legion's punt return. So I think it was good to see Mark Gronowski, build that confidence with his receivers. And I think they talked about it in the game where he said that he needs to he needs to build that confidence that his wide receivers can win one-on-one battles. Speaking of wide receivers, I can't think of the wide receivers coach, but I think they need some extra training on the jugs machine this week. I counted at least 4 drops, if not 5. Some of them were just right here, and they dropped them. And it's just like, man, you can't. I mean, against UMass, you're like,
he had some drops early last week as well, and they got to figure that out because KJ Parker's had a bit of a bugaboo with it here early. I believe Seth Anderson.
He's pretty young though, so I'm not too concerned. It's the Seth Anderson who's been in the program for a few years now, and he's had, I think he had, and I know at least 1, maybe 2, like drops where it hit him right where in the hands, and it's just like you can't, you're in a big time program, you can't be dropping some of those.
Coach Patterson has taught receivers before, so when he gets here, I'm going to ask him about drops because I don't buy the whole he's young thing. He's not a true KJ Parker's not a true freshman, Alex.
He's a redshirt, I thought.
Yeah, okay. Yeah, he's a redshirt freshman. But he's not a true freshman. So he's been in the program for over a year. He's here to catch footballs, not to make this sound oversimplistic. But drops can't be tolerated. And if you got a deep room, if you just have a propensity to drop the football, you're going to work your way out of the rotation. So I'm not saying that that's what we saw. That's why we saw more Dayton Howard tonight. They saw more Dayton Howard because they were up big, which is good. And they don't have Bowie right now, and they don't have Vanderzee, so they're a little.
What's Bowie? What's going on with Bowie? Obviously, we know with Reese Vanderzee, and I did hear from Gary Dolphin. I was listening to the pregame that he was walking around without a boot, so that was a good sign. But what's going on with Bowie?
I have no idea. I honestly, I have no idea. Look,
it's been very hush hush about him. Like it's not. I haven't heard. At least I haven't heard anything about injuries.
I don't know if it's been hush hush. He's not. So he wasn't even in the top 6 heading into the year. So I don't know why. This sounds really. I'm not trying to be crude, but I don't know why people are so concerned with that. Like he wasn't even in the top 6. So I'm sure we'll find out this week because maybe it was published last week and I missed it. But Iowa officially listed him as out today. I don't know that I've seen him on the sideline. I know he participated in fall camp and was fine, as far as I'm aware, at least most of it. But we'll probably get word on Jarrett Bowie today. And it was good to see, like you said, it was good to see Vanderzee walking without the boot. I saw that from Mitch Fick, who covers Iowa as well. So,
and I liked
a little earlier than expected.
Hopefully. I liked what I saw out of Sam Phillips. I know he's a shorter wide receiver. He's a shorter X, which is not typical. Your X is usually your bigger, sure-handed guy that can get your 50-50 balls. But I think he's got great speed. I think it was maybe said by last week, either by you or somebody else, who said, I don't know if Caden Weegan as a wide receiver is really working out. I don't know if it's his route running or getting just separation. I liked him on the jet sweep, but I don't think I saw him too much on. Well, I know he played wide receiver outside of that jet sweep, but I don't know if I don't think he had any targets. So,
well, I mean, he's had a propensity to drop the football. He's admitted that he's not been the best route runner in his time at Iowa. And with his speed, it's unfortunate, but when you have a group that's like 7-8 guys neck and neck, if you have a tendency to drop the football and you're not a great route runner, those are 2 big flags. And I mean, maybe eventually they can figure out a way to get him more involved down the field. But right now, the best way to utilize him on offense is to get him the ball in the backfield and let him use his speed to get on the edge. And he did that tonight and got the touchdown. And obviously he's a weapon on special teams. Very unfortunate, Iowa. They could have used a special teams play from him last week, and it's unfortunate he just played bad. And Kirk alluded to that at halftime. If you heard the BTN interview, that he just kind of was playing tight last week, and that seems odd to me, given the fact that he's like a 6th-year senior. But sometimes you play tight, sometimes you don't play well. But yeah, I agree. It'd be nice to get him more involved, given his speed. Hey, Brevin Dahl's another one. I'd love to see Brevin Dahl more involved.
Yeah, I think, but he was listed as questionable. I think he's been from what I heard from the broadcast was that he was on, or at least it was either the broadcast or
he was listed as out. Hawkeye Football Notes listed him as out initially.
Yeah,
and then he was listed off the injury report. So I don't know if that was just a clerical error at first, but he played tonight. He got in the ball game. I think had at least 1 carry, right?
Yeah, 2 or 3, I think, because he spelled Nathan McNeil, a couple plays. Yep. I think that last series Iowa had. Speaking of when I was ones or twos and threes got in, I like to see. I like them that they had Hank Brown throw the ball a little bit. Granted, I think he only threw it 5 times, but he had a nice ball to
KJ.
Well, KJ was the touchdown. The one that I like, the deep ball to KJ, just overextended him a little bit to where it could have been a long touchdown. He just took him out of bounds. But I like that they got him, throwing the ball a little more just in case.
That was a beautiful throw to KJ Parker in the end zone. I thought the touchdown play was his most impressive, just given the fact that he put that ball exactly where it needed to be. It may look like an easy throw. It's not. It's a lot of, you're covering quite a distance to get, what was it, like 5 yards. And he put that ball perfectly on the money, only where KJ could get it. And no, I think and I know, knock on wood here, right? We don't see anything happen to Mark Gronowski. And by the way, we'll talk more about Mark once Don gets here. I don't think Mark played a great game. And that's going to maybe surprise some people. I thought he was okay. I thought
I would give him maybe a B plus. I think there was one situation where the tight end went out and that gave a guy a free rusher, but it was coming to his left where he's kind of even looking that way where this guy's coming this way. It's like, Mark, you got to see that. You got to be able to step up and avoid him. And that was
a couple of plays where he threw behind his receiver, well behind his receiver. Yeah, I mean, he's still not blocking the guy. I mean, I still think he's gonna be a really good quarterback for Iowa this year. Some people just wrote him off after his first 2 weeks. I think he's still going to be really good, but this is going to be a week by week thing. I thought we saw some improvement from him this week, but it's against a very bad UMass team. So
he did what I expected against this team. Like wasn't expecting, them to just like completely light them up. I mean, they kind of did, but even that first drive, I was really surprised. They took a deep shot early and they hit it, which I think is great for Iowa to see now when we go up against Big Ten play. Obviously, the competition is a lot tougher. And we're going to call you out on one thing. You said Rutgers had a good defense. Their defense is not that good this year. Their offense is a lot better than their defense. If you look at some of their games, their offense has been.
Haven't played. I mean, it's kind of hard to say that just because.
No,
I was talking about their defense under Schiano is pretty good usually because it's Schiano. They have not played a schedule. They're 3-0 against Norfolk State, Ohio, and who was their other opponent?
Ohio took them to the wire, though.
Ohio's good, though. Ohio's good.
Yeah, but if you're talking a good defense, your defense should be able to shut down a MAC school. Granted, how good they are.
Yeah.
So
everything's relative, right? Rutgers played Norfolk, Ohio, and Miami, Ohio. So yeah, I mean, we'll see. But I mean, they gave up 10 today. They gave up 17 last week. Yes, they gave up 31 to Ohio. Ohio's better than we think. But yeah.
They had Ohio State kind of.
They did. They played Ohio State tough. And that game was more so they were holding Ohio State down defensively through that first half and kind of hung around. But no, it's going to be I think the biggest challenge there is going to the East Coast on a short week. I think that's the biggest challenge. So
we've seen it with Maryland. I mean, but that was back in 2021 when Iowa was just on a tear.
We also saw Iowa last year go to the West Coast on a short week and get their pants.
That one worries me more against USC, like going to USC.
At least it's not a short week. You see what I'm saying?
Yeah.
You don't got to play Friday. But real quick, let me call you out on something. Because
is it my beard? Because last time I was on here, everyone was like, I need to shave the beard.
You're growing the beard out, aren't you? By the way, you're a redhead. You saw Iowa basketball got a red.
Well, technically the beard's red, but the lack of hair is brown. So
keep the cap on, grow the beard out. Now I don't remember what I was going to call you out for. Thanks a lot. If I think of it, I'll call you out. Maybe I'll call you out behind your back when you're not on the air. But
that's all. It's all fair. So last couple things, and I think TJ Hall has taken a great step forward. Obviously, in that first game, I was real worried about Iowa State seeing that, and then I think he really locked it down against Iowa State. Granted, again, UMass, still, I think he's been playing well. I think Iowa, has some. I think as Iowa fans, we should feel a little more confident. that Iowa, has some decent cornerbacks. Obviously, we don't have a Cooper DeJean or Jamari Harris or anyone of that caliber,
Sure.
but I think we have some solid cornerbacks. And then, that was against Rutgers. I think Iowa will have more opportunities. I wouldn't say more. I think they should have some opportunities in the throw game because, as I said before, I believe, I after watching some Rutgers games, their defense is not up to where they're known to be like a heavily, where their defense kind of like an Iowa, where the defense kind of is the trademark of the team, and their offense just kind of is there. It's actually kind of flipped a little bit. Their offense has been pretty decent. Obviously, you look at the competition, you could say that about Iowa too. But so I think Iowa will have some opportunities, specifically in the run game. But I think there will be passing opportunities there. So. But that's all I got. If you think about what you're going to call me out for,
I'll figure it out eventually.
all right.
I'll figure it out eventually, Alex. But no, I mean, I agree with everything you just said. They ought to beat Rutgers, and they ought to beat Rutgers by 2 scores. Now, I don't know what the spread's going to be in a road game. Again, I don't. I mean, I know people are going to act like that's making a mountain out of a molehill. It is a factor. Changing time zones on a short week. That's why it was so big they got guys out in the third quarter. That's one of the things I talked about in my pregame. Get guys out in the third quarter, maybe a little bit later in the third quarter than I would have preferred, but that's Kirk Ferentz. That's how he operates. I think they're better at QB2 than they have been for a long time, and that includes when they had Brendan Sullivan backing up Cade McNamara, because I think Hank Brown, even though Brendan was really good with his legs, I think Hank's got a better arm. I mean, I just think he's got a better arm. So with this system, I don't know that they're going to be able to utilize him as long as Mark stays healthy. And, I don't think Mark's been great. I still think he's got room to grow and improve throughout the year. But they got an opportunity to be pretty good offensively, regardless of who the quarterback is. Because I think Hank Brown could come in right now and do what Tim Lester asks him to do. And I don't know that we're going to see a huge difference other than the fact that Mark Gronowski is really capable of extending plays with his legs, which Hank is not.
I think the way I described it to one of my friends was that it's like Minnesota. Minnesota brought in Brosmer, and they had Drake Lindsay behind him and just kind of learning the system. And I think that's a very similar situation where I don't think we'll use Hank. I think the goal is to say, Hank, you're going to learn the system, and then next year it's your job to lose, essentially. And I know Tim Lester spoke really highly of Hank, so I think that's kind of bodes well for Iowa's offense. So two questions before I leave. Do you think that if Iowa beats Indiana, do you think the bad taste of losing to Iowa State leaves? I don't think it'll ever completely be gone, but do you feel like Iowa fans will take more of a breath, like, okay, we lost to Iowa State, that sucks, but hey, we beat a ranked Indiana team. Maybe maybe we shouldn't jump off the cliff just yet. Second question, I know you said that if you get $200 in donations, you'll shave the beard. You need to ask Don Patterson, how much money would it take for him to grow a beard? Just have a little fun with that.
That's good stuff. I'll ask him. My guess is he'll say no amount because Don is who he is.
Maybe we can get him the Kurt Ferentz mullet.
Wait, so what's the deal? Somebody explain that to me.
They showed a picture of Kirk Ferentz, his high school photo, and he had the mullet.
Oh, okay, got it. Okay, yeah, I guess. Yeah. See, I don't pay that much attention to it, but I guess he did kind of have a mullet, didn't he?
Yeah,
but that was the thing.
Party in the back. Back in the 70s, yeah. It's coming back. It's kind of made a little bit of a comeback, but yeah.
Yeah. Dylan, real quick in the chat, and this alludes, I want to go back to what you said to start this call, Alex. First quarter, Iowa was strong. It's almost the flip of what we've seen the last 2 weeks. So that's a good sign because, Tom Caker to HawkeyeReport.com hopped on here last week, and he expressed his biggest concern so far this year has been the slow starts. So it was good to see Iowa come out of the gates. I'll say this.
They came out swinging.
They did.
They technically had 3 passing plays called. The first play, he just scrambled out, and then he hit the big pass.
That's what I was going to call you out on. Okay, so thank you very much. That's what I was going to call you out on.
I just outed myself. Okay.
Yeah, exactly. But the idea that you said, well, I was surprised they came out swinging and throwing. What are you talking about? Did you think Iowa was going to come out there and hand the ball off 50 times? You know how ridiculous that would have looked? No, hold on. Do you know how ridiculous it would have looked if Iowa had, after the last 2 weeks and all the criticism from the outside, if Iowa had just handed the ball off 80 times? Like, they had to come out there and throw. So I fully expected them to take shots. Now, was I happy they took shots early? Yes, but I was not surprised. Now, here's what I want to know. Here's the question. Will they continue to do that? Will they continue to do that? And I think the answer is no. I'm going to call them out. I'm going to put the onus on them. I don't think they'll continue to do that. It's just like trick plays. I thought about this during the game, and Iowa doesn't run a lot of trick plays, but I'll call them exotics. It seems like Iowa's more willing to run flickers, etc., and quote unquote exotics in games where they
don't need to.
Groups. Exactly. That wasn't the way it was between like 2017 to 2019, but it seems that way in the last 5 years because they've ran very few exotics and tend to be in games that are, blowouts anyways. So here's the question. Will Iowa continue to air it out early in games against Rutgers, Indiana, Oregon, Penn State? And I do think they should. I'm going to say that I think they should, but I'm challenging them. I'm challenging Kirk to be okay with that. I think Tim Lester would probably do it if he had his choice. But I do think Kirk has his hand in,
the cookie jar,
especially early. Those are some of those calls are pre-planned. So we'll see if that happens moving forward.
And I may have misspoke when I said surprise. I meant to say happy. So if I said surprise, I did mean happy to see them actually throwing the ball. I was a little afraid that they would just kind of do the typical Iowa run, pass, and then against a bad UMass team, I thought they would have more success because. It's a bad UMass team. So, but yeah, no, I was happy that they came out swinging late as they did. So, but yeah, no. So if I said surprise, I meant happy. That's just my misspeak. So,
way to walk it back. Yeah.
I don't know what you're talking
about. Hey, we'll talk to you next Friday. We got another night game next week, except Friday night instead of Saturday. So, talk to you about 6 days from right now, right?
I look forward to it. Hey, I appreciate the taking my call again. I appreciate everything you and Don do. Gives us a voice, giving us a chance for fans to either lament or just rage out because of how bad this team looks sometimes. But appreciate everything you do.
Absolutely. Thank you, Alex. Call. Thank you so much. Okay, folks. We're going to be here with Coach Don Patterson in about 60 seconds. Big thank you first to our sponsors, one being Big Grove Brewery. You see their logo up here in the corner. If you've not checked out Big Grove, they're probably available near you because they're all across Iowa. Des Moines, Solon, Cedar Rapids, Iowa City. They're opening a store here very soon in Omaha, and they're constructing a place down in Kansas City. I know that's official now as well. Big Grove Brewery, the official craft brewery of the Hawkeyes and the official watch party headquarters of the Hawkeyes. If you can't make the big game, be sure you kick back with one of their great Easy Eddies, neighborhood beers, Citrus Surfers, whatever your preferred beer of choice is from Big Grove Brewery at a convenient location across the great state of Iowa. Iowa City, Des Moines, Cedar Rapids, Solon, Omaha, coming soon, and Kansas City in the works. Also want to give a thank you to our sponsor, Brad Van Meter and his team down at State Farm. If you need to save some money, and who doesn't, right? In this day and age, give Brad a call. He can help you get great savings on your auto policy, perhaps life insurance, motorcycle, boat. I spent some time the Iowa Great Lakes this past week up in Okoboji, and boy, how fun it is to be on the lake in the summertime, but you need great insurance. Make sure you're protected. Give Brad a call to make sure you are protected against come what may. 515-256-6480. You can also visit Brad online. Is located down on Fleur Drive in Des Moines at 4229 Fleur Drive. Again, Brad Van Meter in Des Moines. Also, Iowa Smokehouse. Use the code Hawkeyes for 15% off your order. Check out these country-style bacon meat sticks. And as many gas stations and stores I've been in over the past week, I see Iowa Smokehouse everywhere. But just skip the stores, folks. Order it through our code. Go to iowasmokehouse.com. You spend $50. This stuff keeps, folks. Spend $50. It's not hard to do that during football season. You'll get free shipping on a $50 order, and you'll get 15% off your order with the code Hawkeyes. You cannot go wrong with Iowa Smokehouse, and their meats, their jerkies, their barbecue sauces are tasty. Their ketchups, their salsas, everything's great. Shop now at iowasmokehouse.com and use that code Hawkeyes for 15% off your order. Also want to thank RTI Threads. They are with us, and our RTI Threads player of the game today, Caden Weegan, 4 punt returns for 182 yards, a long of 95. And why that punter for UMass punted to Caden Weegan in the third quarter is beyond me, but Caden takes it back for a Kinnick record of 95 yards for a touchdown. So phenomenal play there, and then continued with his 20-yard run for a touchdown in that first half. Also had 1 kick return for 34 yards. What a bounce-back day for Caden Weegan, the Williamsburg native, and he'll come into play as we talk about our Big Grove big play of the day. But again, Caden Weegan, our RTI Threads player of the game. Folks, we're going to be right back with none other than the man of the hour, Coach Don Patterson. You're watching from the Hawkeye of the Storm, our Iowa postgame with Coach Don Patterson. We'll be right back. Let me introduce you to one of the proud supporters of From the Hawkeye of the Storm, Iowa floor covering down in Bondurant. Now, for the last year and a half, you've heard me talk about this great company in the heart of central Iowa. They've got their tough core, click together, 4.5 millimeter waterproof vinyl flooring, great for you DIYers out there. But even if you're just a contractor or you need a different type of flooring, they've got you covered, whether it be tile showers, carpet. Give Iowa Floor Covering a chance to serve you better and serve your flooring needs. Visit them online at iowafloorcovering.com. That's iowafloorcovering.com, or you can give them a call at 515-379-7000. That's 515-379-7000. Thank you to Iowa Floor Covering in Bondurant. Iowa Floor Covering, proud sponsor of our coverage here from the Hawkeye of the Storm. We appreciate them. They've been with us for so long. And again, whatever flooring needs you have, call Iowa Floor Covering first. And just know you're supporting our show here From the Hawkeye of the Storm. Thank you to IFC down in Bondurant. Let's add Coach Don Patterson to our show. Don, good to see you, sir. Glad to make it to see you've made it back home safely after a beautiful night in Kinnick Stadium. How you doing on this Saturday?
Well, it's been a pretty productive evening, I'd say.
Very productive evening. A 40-point win doesn't do anybody any disservice, I guess, except the Minutemen in this case. Don, are you offended by the fact that I didn't know what a Minuteman was heading into this game?
No, I'm okay with that.
Okay. I readily admitted that, and I know I saw some people in the chat like, you don't know what a Minuteman is. Go back to history class. I'm like, well, I'm sorry. I was probably researching Iowa football's 2008 roster during that class. So anyways, I apologize in advance for that. But Don, Iowa wins this one 47-7 against UMass. This is a UMass team that, let's just establish this. This is not a good team, okay? Relative to fellow FBS competition. I hate to – it looks like I just gave your puppy dog away. The way I said that in your expression, Don, I hate to break it to you. This is not a good football team, but you know that. I'm, all joking aside, this is a lower tier FBS team. It's a team that has not won more than 3 games since I think at least 2018. And new coaching staff. They were down some players, including their starting quarterback today. Iowa did what it was supposed to do. And we'll talk about the ins and outs, how we can read between the lines. But just your initial reaction fresh off this win.
Well, I think going into the game, Corey, there's several goals that I think have to be met. Most obvious is win the game, of course, but more than that, win the game and gain some confidence with how we can play. Or to be more specific, gain confidence with how we can throw the ball.
Yep.
And I was really glad to see that we came out fine. As I recall, we had 120 yards passing at the end of one quarter. 40 yards rush, 160-yard offense in the first quarter. The other thing that pleased me, you heard me say last week, if you don't have a good game plan, then you need to go back and look at film, because everybody's got weaknesses and your job is to find them. And I was really addressing that more to the coaches, of course, than the players. But I was really pleased to see. I'll give you 3 examples in the first quarter. One of my favorite plays I saw all night long, we faked left, we rolled right, we pulled up, and we threw the ball back left to the faking back behind the line of scrimmage, and of course we had a bunch of linemen out in front of him. I think that play went for 35 yards, maybe. I was glad to see that, of course. Another simple play, we faked one way and simply threw the ball behind the line of scrimmage the other way. A misdirection swing route, you can call it. And we picked up good yardage there because we're simply sending them the wrong direction to begin with and then working the ball away from where we sent them. Just good, smart football. High percentage passes, balls thrown behind the line in general. With all the shorter passes, we did a decent job of throwing and catching those. So that was all good to see. I was also glad to see we had one penalty all night for 5 yards, and we didn't turn the ball over once. On the negative side of things, we didn't create any turnovers with our defense. They played all night long without a turnover as well. So that's disappointing. We need to get the ball out. The good news is we did a nice job of.
They're not getting the ball out in general, Don. Like, this is game 3, and that's one thing. Evaluating the defense so far, they didn't do it last week against Iowa State. The only turnover they had last week was on that weird muffed punt, if you will. It wasn't a muffed punt. It was what do you call that? It touched an Iowa State player, or at least we think it did, and Iowa recovered.
Calling it a break for Iowa.
Yeah.
If I was an Iowa State fan, I'd feel like they got it wrong.
Yeah, exactly. So that's one thing Phil Parker's unit's got to improve upon, and they got 2 more games before the bye week to figure it out.
I do think our tackling was pretty darn good. I saw very few missed tackles. I don't know how many explosives we gave up. Not very many, obviously.
Well, I'll tell you real quick. I got the official box score up. I've not counted up UMass's explosive plays, but Iowa, Don, with 6 explosive plays. Of course, we don't consider when we talk about offense, we're not including special teams because we're talking about offense only. So 6 explosive plays, and Don, 5 of those 6 were through the air. So that's a welcome thing, right? Most of Iowa's explosive plays since Tim Lester took over have been on the ground. And
they did a good job of pushing the ball downfield, throwing and catching it too.
And you heard our last caller, Alex, bring up making a concerted effort early to get that ball down the field to Sam Phillips, to Seth Anderson, to Jacob Gill. They came out and did that today. Now, I have questions about whether Iowa will be devoted and, whether Kirk will be okay doing that, comfortable doing that moving forward. But they had to do it today, given the first 2 weeks, specifically the lack of attempts last week against Iowa State. Some of that's, I get some of that is schematics and who Iowa State is, but you just felt like they had to come out swinging through the air. They did 2 early touchdown passes to Seth Anderson.
Right. I'm looking now at UMass. They had 1 explosive play all night, 22-yard pass completion. That's it. Longest run was 9 yards. And let's brag on our pass rush, because the reason their rushing totals were so low, of course, we had a lot of stack yardage in there.
True. Yeah, and some of that was created by blitzing early. We saw Jaden Harrell sack and some pressure. Phil usually is very deliberate with when he chooses to selective and deliberate when he chooses to blitz. But I was impressed with Jonah. I continue to be impressed with Jonah Pace. He's been a kind of a pleasant surprise. Of the 2 transfers, I expected Hawthorne to be more of a factor. Right now, Jonah Pace has clearly been the more productive guy in the interior, along with Aaron Graves, Herkett, Llewellyn. Llewellyn had an excellent game today.
I remind you, just a week ago, one of my favorite plays in the game was Jonah Pace. He was in a pass rush mode. The ball was thrown. He immediately redirected and hustled in pursuit of the ball, tackled the guy short of the first down. It was a critical down, too. I think it was maybe 3rd and 3, and he tackled him for a gain of 1. Great hustle.
Absolutely. And Don, let's just talk about our big play of the day so far. I guess before we start getting into the ins and outs of this one, our big play of the day is Caden Weegen's 95-yard punt return in the 3rd quarter. And Don, let me just fill you in on this, because one thing you don't know about that play is prior to it, the Big Ten Network sideline reporter said that she talked to the UMass head coach at halftime. And one of her questions, it was a good question. I give her credit for good reporting there. One of her questions to the UMass head man was, how do you deal with Caden Weegen? And the commentators, including Mark Followell and Anthony Herron, said, laughed at this because the response was from the head coach, we're just going to kick it out of bounds. And it wasn't the next punt that it was kicked to Caden Weegan, and perhaps it wasn't intentional. But, man, you could just feel – I could just feel the UMass head coach's angst when Caden caught that ball inside his own 5, by the way. I mean, he kind of stumbled backwards behind his own 5. Officially, it was a 95-yard punt return for a touchdown there early in the third quarter. And obviously just big overall. And he's our RTI Threads player of the game as well. But, Don, talk about that big play, that 95-yard punt return. It's a Kinnick Stadium record.
Well, one of the first things you need to know about specialty teams, even if you have a punter with a powerful leg, it really doesn't count for much if he consistently outkicks the coverage. You need better hang time. You can't line drive those kicks down there because they're coming back at you. That's what we always call a returner. If you line drive the ball down range, it's coming back. And in Wiggins' case, it may go all the way to the end zone. So incredible, 182 yards on, is that right? On 4 punt returns, 182 yards. Impressive.
Yep. Really impressive. And also had a nice kickoff return. And he's a guy, Don, who last week struggled. I mean, you don't expect that out of a senior in big games. You expect those guys to show up. But he struggled in every aspect, had the slipped route.
And you're being kind of say he struggled. A more blunt appraisal would be he had a bad game. But he bounced back.
Yeah, I'm sure
he bounced back.
As all leaders do, I'm sure he felt very responsible for some. And I'm not saying he was responsible in soul, but I'm sure he felt responsible given the fact that he slipped on the interception play. He cost him precious yardage on a punt where he allowed the punt to bounce back close to Iowa's own goal line in Ames and just did nothing in the kick return game either. But boy, he showed up today, Don. He also had the rush for a touchdown, and we're going to talk more about getting him involved with the offense in just a little bit. But
let me bring on Caden in one other aspect, Corey. After one of the earlier punt returns, also an excellent punt return, I said to my buddy nearby, I said, he reminds me a lot of Tim Dwight. And that's a good thing. He's not as fast as Tim, but he's plenty fast.
Is he not as fast as Tim?
I think Tim's faster, yeah.
I know you're devoted to that notion, but he looked pretty fast on that 95-yard return, Don.
Well, trust me, Tim was still out running.
All right.
But it'd be a good race. And I told Caden one time, I said, Caden, you know why I like you as a return man? You understand kickoffs in particular, not punt so much. It bugged me last week. We had mediocre kick returns. We couldn't spring him loose, of course. But I really put more blame on the blocking than I did Caden. Because Caden understands when you get the ball, you got to attack. You don't dance around. You got to go, and you got to go 100 miles an hour. And if the block is not there, it's not there. That's the responsibility of someone else. Caden's job is to hit that return hard. He's done it in the past, and he'll continue to do it. That's exactly what a punt returner and a kick returner should do. Punt returns, I'll admit, sometimes you got to dance around a little bit, but not on kick returns. And obviously, if you outkick the coverage on punt, no reason to dance around. There's a lot of green grass out there. Go get it. And he did.
And by the way, the kick return for Caden, officially one kick return for Caden Weegan. And I thought it was a risky play. And you agree with that? You're nodding your head.
He's about 5 yards deep, as I recall.
You don't see that often. Guys are calling for fair catches outside of the end zone.
Well, I'm assuming that he was given the green light before he left the bench. Maybe not. Maybe he got chastised for taking it out of the end zone, but he obviously thinks he can go the distance. Maybe not every time. That's not realistic, but how about this? Every now and then? I think he feels like he can bust one every now and then.
Real quick, Don, this is a clerical question. When a guy returns a kick from inside the end zone, he's credited for 34 yards. Does that mean he got to the 34, or does that mean he stopped? Does that mean he got to the 29 and started 5 yards?
Funny you mentioned that. I thought about that tonight. I wondered how many yards would he get credited for?
Yeah.
Would he get credit for those yards in the end zone? I don't believe you do.
Okay. That's
I'm
my
not sure.
Yeah.
I can check while we're talking here because I know he was at least 4 or 5 yards deep.
Well, folks, the call in line to chat with Coach Patterson and myself, 515-635-1601. 515-635-1601. Let's get to our second caller. By the way, our call line is sponsored by Iowa Smokehouse. Their tasty products available for 15% off your order. Hawkeyes is the code at iowasmokehouse.com. Let's go back to our Iowa Smokehouse line. We've got James, who was here early. James, welcome back to the show.
How you doing?
Doing good. How are you?
Good. First concern I have, because obviously you win a game, right? And as Don knows this, you win games, but you still have concerns, stuff that kind of sticks out to you, right? One concern that sticks to me is this is probably, no offense to UMass, and I hope all the players get healthy, especially the guy who hurt his neck, right? But this is probably one of the worst teams that we're going to play out here. This is probably the worst team we're going to play out here, right? And you didn't get a single turnover off that team. That is very scary to me, right? They have no turnovers in 3 games, obviously, but this is the worst team you played. You still got no turnovers off this team, right? Like,
Did they not have any turnovers against Albany? They didn't have a single turnover against Albany?
I don't think so.
Don, is that right?
Not sure. Can't remember one.
Yeah, I don't think they did. I think they have no turnovers in 3 games, and this is the worst
Well, they
team
had a turnover last week, but it was on special teams. But yeah.
I meant like
Yep.
defensive wise, like picks or fumbles like that defensive wise. But
Right. No, that's a fair concern. I mean, through non-conference, when's the last time I don't know the last time we would have said that, Don, that, you're entering Big Ten play through 3 games and Iowa's forced 0 turnovers. It's not like they're turning the ball over, but they're not forcing turnovers. And Iowa's normally passing the turnover margin test with flying colors. So that's something, you credit TJ Hall. He's playing better. That was brought up. Alex Springman brought it up here a few minutes ago. TJ Hall has been better. I think he's been a solid plus for the DBs. Xavier Wampa's been better. Cohen Entringer's been good. But those guys got to force some turnovers. And it's not all about interceptions. It's also about forcing fumbles. They have forced at least 1 or 2 fumbles this year, but haven't recovered any. And they practice that. Those are things that are, that are factored into drills. So, no, those are fair concerns, Don.
Come to think of it, when Mark had the run option or scrambled and the ball came out,
That's
it was a really nice play by a UMass defender.
And it's a little bit careless on Mark's part. He's dancing around.
He did a good job of knocking it out with his fist, too.
How do you deal? By the way, real quick, before we go back to James, what do you tell Mark when he comes to the sidelines on that play? He's dancing around trying to make something happen, but he's not aware that there's a guy behind him. What do you tell him as a ball carrier in that position? Well,
first off, you're near the goal line, so don't wait around too long because the pay dirt's not very far away. Be decisive down there, and don't second guess yourself. If you feel like you've got to run, then tuck it and run. But your point is, as long as you're not dancing, it's going to be hard for a pursuit coming from behind to track you down. And that's what happened on that play, I do believe.
I'm just happy we looked the way we looked against this team. We should have looked this way. I'm just happy that we looked the way we looked, and obviously throwing the ball right away was interesting to see, right? Just the way they 3 plays and a touchdown right away was good to see against a team like this where you should have done it. But all in all, I won't take up much of your time. I was going to say it's the way the game should have went. Obviously, we should have went this way. Obviously, special teams, you need to figure out what was going on with Drew. But I told my dad, if Drew's going to have a bad game, this is the game to have a bad game, right? If you're not going to be on your A game against UMass as a team to not have your A game against.
Drew who?
Right?
Drew who?
The kicker. Steven.
What? Okay, so he missed an extra point.
And missed a kick. But I'm saying, if you're gonna have your off day, and the fact that he hasn't missed any extra, he's missed 1 extra point in his career before this, right?
He missed a field goal too, but it must have been barely wide. I thought it was
barely wide.
Yeah.
His first 2 snaps on PATs were not good snaps. Even the second PAT that he made was a bad snap.
They were both snap problems.
Go back and look at it. Definitely,
okay.
Definitely the second one. And I
couldn't help but notice on the first PAT, Drew and I think I mentioned this to Drew. I used to tell my kickers, listen, do you remember that expression, split the uprights? A kicker would say, yeah, I remember that expression, Coach. I said, okay, I want you to take it to heart. If your PAT's not down the middle, that's going to be a cause for alarm. Because if you back them out on the field, you're going to miss some field goals. And I did notice the first kick was decidedly left. And then I believe the second kick was the one that was missed.
The one he barely made was left too. The one he squeaked in was left too, or Same.
The one on either side of the bunk was barely inside the uprights. I'm pretty sure.
No, you're right.
Kicks.
Go back though. There were not good snaps. I'm not taking blame off of Drew. I'm just saying.
I'm actually relieved to know it was a snap problem, so that's correctable. I guess your point, Corey, is it's really more with the mechanism of snapping the ball, putting the ball down than it was our kicker.
I would think so based on what I saw. I'm no special teams coordinator, but definitely the second one was clearly. I shouldn't say clearly the snapper. It was something between the snapper and the holder, because it was a delayed hold, and that does affect timing and rhythm of the kick. And then we haven't even talked about the punt coverage breakdown, Don. That was obviously a big play resulted in UMass's only score. We'll get to that here in a second once we're off the phone with James. But no, I agree with you, James. If Drew's going to have an off day, and I would say it was an off day, you miss a field goal. He did make the 54-yarder, and I had every confidence that he was going to do that. He also made a difficult Don, that 26-yard field goal from that right hash. That's a difficult kick.
The angle, yeah.
I'm always nervous about right hash kicks that are not very long.
Yeah. So I agree with you. Yeah.
I mean, in general, like special teams can have an off day. This is a good right team to have an off day against probably the worst team you play. And in fact, if you can overcome those mistakes, right, you do that against a better team. Obviously, it's going to be harder to overcome those mistakes. Is more what I meant. But
yeah, and the standard that he has set has been really high.
Yeah.
So when he does struggle in some department, and by the way, he flirted with that kick last week against Iowa State that they called good. And
to be honest with you, the one today, they said it on the broadcast, the one today looked more good than the one against Iowa State.
I don't know, man. I didn't think the one today looked good, but I thought the angle was bad. And remember, it's got to be completely inside the upright.
The angle was kind of to the right, so you couldn't really tell. Like, it was more a little bit to the right the angle was, so you couldn't really tell where it actually was, because the angle was pointed more right, so you couldn't really tell how far left it was. But overall, it was a good way to get the win you should have got, and I'll let you guys get on to the next callers. Just congrats to Kirk Ferentz, obviously. I know some people have their opinions on Kirk, right? But just congrats to him on getting to 206, right? And no matter how long it takes you, to still a feat no matter what, right? The record book ain't going to say anything, but he got to 206, right? And that's important to him. Congrats to him. It's great to see all the players they play for, and even Lisa Bluter was there to congratulate him, right? It's great to see all the love from everybody who used to play there, and even all the old coaches still giving him love and support about it too. So that's a good thing to see.
James, appreciate the call, sir. We'll talk to you next Friday.
Corey, is it possible for you to put Amanda's comment back up on the screen, the one that was just up a minute ago?
Not that one. Let's see. Here we go. This one?
Yes. I want to comment. I think she's right. Another caller just texted in and said, our backup quarterback's better than our starter. I'm sorry, I disagree. Let me just make one point. I'm sure you'll make the same point. And I have nothing against Hank Brown. I think he's going to be a very, very capable quarterback. But let's not forget, we always used to joke, the most popular guy on campus is always the backup quarterback. Never throws a pick, never throws an incomplete pass. He's the most popular guy on campus. I'll remind that caller that texted that message about Brown being better. Here's what I remember. I remember a receiver that's wide open for a touchdown, clearly behind the defense, and we throw the ball off the field.
Yep.
That was Hank Brown.
Yep.
Now, there's nothing wrong with it happening because Hank Brown's very unlikely to do that going forward because you learn from your mistakes, and that was clearly a mistake. All he had to do is keep the ball on the field as a touchdown, throw it off the field. So he'll learn. He's got a bright future, but let's not sit here and just make a statement that really is not based on fact. I have a lot of faith in Tim Lester. The best quarterback for us is Mark. Otherwise, he wouldn't be starting Mark. That doesn't mean there wasn't a competition. I have a lot of optimism for Hank. And we better have a good backup quarterback because, as you know, Corey, the mindset has to be you're one play away.
Yeah. And
so
Hank did make it was a nice.
What pleased me, Corey. We got a lot of backups, a lot of playing time. That was good.
Yep.
I noticed the first starters out were on defense. That was late in the third quarter. And then as the quarter ended, we got the backups in on offense, and they played all in the fourth quarter.
And it was a nice throw by Hank for that touchdown to KJ. I mean, that was placed only where KJ, and it looks like an easy pass. It's not. and it was right where it needed to be, only where KJ could nab that thing, Don. So I was impressed by Hank, but yeah, we got to take things with a grain of salt and understand time and situation and weigh things collectively. And it's unfortunate Mark had the interception last week, because that's really been, he really hasn't had, that I can think of, maybe one other near interception so far through 3 games.
Right. Did UMass ever get their hands on one of his passes?
Yeah,
I don't believe they did.
I don't think so. So, he, there's some reads that he would probably want back. He missed a couple of guys, had a couple of passes behind his intended receiver. He wasn't perfect today. Now, I said with our first caller, I said, I actually don't think, I think he was good. He was not great. I think he was fine.
There's still room for improvement.
Absolutely. There's room for improvement. It's week 3. I don't think this is necessarily going to be, even though he's in his 5th year, I don't think it's going to necessarily be a situation where he all of a sudden just turns into this Heisman level quarterback. I think it's just going to be a steady progression through this year at Iowa and adjusting to, and I think he's fine right now, but I think he's still got, I think his ceiling is a lot higher than he's shown. That's good news. It's just not going to happen overnight. I'd be surprised if all of a sudden he's throwing for, 350 yards and, 80% through the air. I just don't, especially with the schedule, I don't see that happening. But yeah, definitely steps in the right direction. Don, how big was it to see Tim Lester call some shots there early, just to get Mark confident with his footwork and with his arm, with some struggles here over the last couple of weeks?
Yeah, and let's back up a little further to the start of the game. I was pleased to see us win the toss and take the ball. Because right there, that one act on the part of Kirk to decide to do that, that's his way of saying, I got confidence in you guys, go on the field and put it in the end zone. And we did. Took us, I think, 1 minute and 56 seconds, as I recall. So we came out fine and didn't take long to get in the end zone. That's the way it needed to be.
Real quick shout out to all of our premium subs who are in the live chat. Jack Veers, Amanda Wagner, thank you for being a premium member. James, who was just on the phone line with us. Thank you all. And if there's more, certainly comment in the live chat and would love to give you a shout out. We certainly appreciate that. And Screenwriting Scribe reminding everybody, folks, hit that like button. We're here late as we talk about Iowa UMass. I know it's a late night for some and maybe a smaller crowd than our typical night, which is understandable given the 40-point win and given the time of day. But if you're here, please help us out by hitting that like button. It costs nothing, and it certainly does help. Lemansky, thank you for the super chat. Lemansky, he says, on Kirk's historic night, we fans the building blocks cemented by Coach Don and others. Don, can't thank you enough. That's a gracious comment from Lemansky. So thank you for that, Lemansky. Don, I know you echo the same.
Absolutely. Thank you.
And now let's just talk real briefly about Kirk and the record. 206 becomes the all-time Big Ten head coaching wins leader. And yes, they play more games now than they used to, right? You go years back. But it's certainly a testament to Kirk's longevity and the success he's had with this program. And they showed the Hayden Fry statue today during the Big Ten broadcast. You'll see that, Don, as you watch the game back. But just, how do you sum up this moment for Kirk? And certainly he'll go down in the record books. And, I know people are going to, poke fun at it happened against UMass, but this is a record that's been in the making for, 25 plus years. And, what a career it's been for Kirk, and it's not over.
Well, Kirk's an old friend. We were talking about this back in the 80s. It's been a while. And the thing I appreciate, there's a lot of things I appreciate about Kirk. Maybe the best compliment I could pay him, if I had a son, I would be thrilled if he made a decision to play for Kirk. Because Kirk knows how to treat young men. He's a great role model for all of our players. You heard me say before, Corey, I've been asked by young coaches, give me some advice. I'm about to be a head coach. I said, okay, I'll give you some advice. I promise this, you're not going to be successful unless you have 2 things in your favor. You have to be liked by your players, and you have to be respected by your players. And one out of 2 is going to get you fired. So you have to be liked and respected. I'm confident in saying Kirk is liked and respected by his players.
Why is he liked and respected by his players?
I'm sorry?
Why is he liked and respected by his players, and why would you be so comfortable with your son playing for Kirk?
Because he's gonna hold them to a high standard. He's gonna expect them to conduct themselves right at all times, on and off the game field and the practice field. He's gonna challenge them to be as good as they can be, and he's gonna prepare them well for life after football, because life is not a walk in the park. Life's difficult, life's challenging, and he's going to challenge the players as they deserve to be challenged. And they're not going to want to disappoint him, because they do believe in him and care about him. And he knows, they know that he cares about them.
What is it about Kirk, Don, that has helped him be here from 1999, and now here we are, late 2025? What is it about Kirk that has helped him to become this long-standing of a college football coach for a guy who, hadn't had really any success as a head coach at any level prior to his hiring at Iowa in '99?
Well, really, to help explain why Kirk has been our head coach for a long time, you have to go all the way back to Hayden Fry and Bump Elliott. Bump told Hayden, and I think Bump was probably right, last coach I ever hired, because if you fail, they're going to get me too. And you might recall, out of the outhouse and into the penthouse in 3 years, that's still the fastest turnaround in the history of the Big Ten. And maybe you might argue, well, wait a minute now, what about Indiana? Cignetti's done a good job there, but let's not forget, they didn't win the Big Ten last year. They had an excellent season, but they had a schedule that was a little bit suspect, and that proved to be true in the playoffs. Last time I checked, they were pretty convincingly beaten in the playoffs. And whatever games they lost in the regular season, I think those were pretty decisive too. I can't remember who beat them now. Were they 11-2? I can't even remember.
That sounds right.
Yeah. So, excellent season. But really, you need to measure yourself by how you play against those teams you're not supposed to beat. That's the real challenge. Can you beat some of those? There's a few people they beat, maybe that they were officially the underdog, but not many. I will give them credit. If they were the slight favorite, they beat some of those teams badly last year. So I give them credit for that. But the real test, can you beat the teams you're not supposed to beat? That's the real test. And Indiana still has some things to prove there. And maybe they'll get that done. They certainly off to a good start with Coach Cignetti and his staff. We'll find out. We see him in 2 weeks. And we don't need to worry about Indiana this week. We got our hands full with Rutgers. But we'll worry about Indiana a week from tonight, that's for sure.
And Don, I watched Iowa State, Arkansas State. Bob brings that game up in the live chat. They are fortunate to have won that game. And let me just say, I thought there were some really bad calls. Butch Jones and the Wolfpack were hosed on.
Really?
There were 2 touchdowns scored when it was 17-16. Would have given Arkansas State the lead. I'm sorry, 17-13. Let me correct that. It was 17-13. Would have given Arkansas State the lead. Both were called back due to flags. One was a legitimate offensive pass interference. It was closer than the commentators made it out to be, Don. You'll go back and watch this game, but there was I thought a phantom hold call that wiped away a touchdown, and Iowa State ended up winning by 8. But Iowa State did not look good, and I don't know why. I mean, I called this out on social media. I've talked with Mark Rogers about it. It makes absolutely zero sense that Iowa State continues to schedule these stupid games against MAC teams and against Sunbelt teams on the road. It makes no sense. Nobody else is doing it. So either everyone else is wrong and Matt Campbell and Iowa State is right, or we're all smart and they're not.
Well, it might be a budget consideration. You realize when you only play MAC teams at your place, you've got to pay. It's what we call a guarantee game, right? it's a good sum of money.
So you're telling me that all these other schools across the country are fine not playing these games on the road, and Iowa State has to play MAC teams on the road and Sun Belt teams on the road? Why does no one else have to do that? Very few teams do this, Don.
There are a few that do from time to time.
A few out of 130?
Well, let me just put it to you this way. Isn't it conceivable and AD's having a hard time filling the schedule? And maybe he's in conversation with Arkansas State, and they say, we'll agree to play and fill that opening that you're kind of desperate to fill, but let's go home and you can play us the next year.
Well, I'm just saying you lost 2 years ago against Ohio.
I'm aware of that.
And then they did it again today, and I could argue they should have lost today. Now, I know the schedules were made up well in advance, but, fool me once, shame on you. Fool me twice, and you know the rest. So, had they lost today, I'd have gone on.
Certainly classified Arkansas State. I classified today's game as a trap game, absolutely. I thought they might struggle to beat them. Because Arkansas State's decent.
Like I say, when you play them on the road, you're asking for problems. And they played an Arkansas State team that got blown out by 40 last week to Arkansas. They played them very close. Now, a win's a win. That's a true statement. A win is a win. But, it doesn't look great. But they did win. So I give them credit. Arkansas State, I thought at times today looked like they had better skill players, which is just fascinating to me. But regardless, trap game, certainly. I thought if any game was going to be a trap game, it was that week 2 game against South Dakota. So I was a little bit surprised they just were amazing that day and struggled today, but absolutely believe that it was a trap game. Austin in the chat congratulates Kirk Ferentz, one of the greatest to do it. Eric Peterson says Iowa is back. So we have people on both ends of the spectrum today, Coach. Some people really excited about the 40-point win. Some people just basically dumbing it down and attributing it to the fact that it was a UMass team that probably is one of the 20 worst teams in the FBS, and that might be being a little bit kind to the Minutemen. Chris Bacon, thank you for the super chat. He says, fun game. Really appreciate the donation there. Chris and Don, I just want to cover a couple of things before we get to our next caller. We've got Vincent, who's been on hold patiently. So, Vincent, thank you for waiting here. I do want to cover a couple of things before we get too late in the night because I know some people are going to start going to bed. I get that. It's 11 o'clock p.m. Don, we talked about the 95-yard punt return, but let's talk a little bit about the drops because that was brought up in the live chat, and I want to get your opinion as a former wide receivers coach. We talked a little bit about drops last week. A couple of guys had some crucial drops, especially early, and I didn't count the number of drops today, but we saw at least 1 or 2 drops from KJ Parker. We saw a big-time drop pass by DJ Vonamy, who's going to be thrust into a bigger role with Addison Estringa out at tight end. And Seth Anderson had a drop while Iowa was running 2-minute offense at the end of the first half. So that's too many drops. Okay, that's too many drops as a whole. So how do you, first of all, why is that happening? Second of all, how do you address it if you're Tim Lester and John Budmeyer?
Well, you've heard me say before, Corey, there's a huge difference in catching at 90% versus 95%. And I think that's a good way to start, is explain to the receivers, I shouldn't judge you by the ones you catch. I'm going to judge you by the ones you drop. If you're catching at 90% and your teammates catching at 95%, that's a big spread. You're dropping twice as many as he is. And one drop pass can cost you a game. And that's how important it is. I don't know if they chart in practice, but they should. We always had a manager charting, and a manager wasn't making the final call. If it was a close call, he would always look to me as a coach, and I would simply nod up and down or sideways. No, that's not a drop. Yes, that's a drop. If he wasn't sure, because my interpretation should count more than his of what's a drop and what's not. But you heard me say before, if you're a great receiver, if you can touch it, your mentality is you can catch it. Now, I will admit, if you saw up for a ball and it skips off your fingertips, let's imagine a deep throw and the receiver launches himself to try to make that diving catch, and it skips off his fingertips, clearly that's not a drop because there's nothing else he could have done. It's amazing that he almost made that circus catch. But anything short of that, a good receiver would say that's a drop. I should have caught it. And I'm sure the balls that were dropped tonight, the receivers would probably all acknowledge, yep, that's a drop. One thing I think they should do.
I think I'm pretty forgiving on the drops, just for the record. I think I'm being pretty moderate with how I'm evaluating drops. There were at least 4 legitimate drops, and I think that's probably, again, being a little bit.
Yeah, I would recommend to all of my receivers, when you drop a ball, even in practice, go back and look at the video, closely look at the video, and ask yourself, is there some kind of mechanical reason that I dropped the ball? Or maybe just a technique reason. I'll give you a simple example. Sometimes a guy drops the ball simply because he didn't look the ball in. Right?
That happened to KJ Parker today.
Yeah, he's thinking about what he's going to do after the catch, and he doesn't look the ball in. You got to look the ball in. I mentioned Cajun the other day because I just was visiting with him after practice, and I said, Cajun, I know you take a lot of pride in how you play, and you may not be aware, but I used to coach receivers for Iowa years ago. And I said, maybe you've heard this before, but let me share it with you all over again. Some of the toughest balls to catch are when you're squared up at the ball and it's coming at you right here, and you got to catch it right here in front of your face. It's coming with velocity. What you cannot afford to do is stab at the ball. You got to have the mentality, I got to cushion the ball. I can give on contact with the ball. I want to take away that violent contact, ball versus hand. I want to cushion the ball into my hands. Hope that makes sense to you.
Yeah.
And he said, Coach, I think you're right. And that's something for me to work on because I know that'll improve my ability if I just make it more second nature to cushion the ball. And he's a conscientious guy, and I'm sure he'll get that done. Sometimes it's as simple as not looking the ball in. Sometimes it's simply a case. Let's face it, there's a couple of ways to catch a ball. You can catch it with your thumbs in, or you can catch it with your thumbs out, right? And if you have a chance to catch it with your thumbs out, that's a good thing. Receivers can remain nameless, but a receiver that had difficulty catching a ball with his thumbs in, I didn't mind that too much as long as he was a home run threat. Because those balls that were thrown up and over, his hands were thumbs out. You still have to look the ball in, of course, but you have a better chance of catching it if you have a basket there to gather the ball in on those deep throws.
Thumbs out, not thumbs in.
Thumbs out, yeah. And obviously, if you're squared up to the ball that's coming at you, you can't very well turn around and try to catch it like this. You have to catch it with your thumbs in. But what will help you is being able to cushion the ball on contact.
Bob brings up being injury-free after this game. I don't know if that's totally the case.
I have a concern about Xavier. Any idea? I saw him on the sideline. Maybe the sideline reporter never made a comment about him.
Xavier Wampa?
No.
Williams?
Yeah,
I did see that on social media. I didn't see him personally, but
I'm not sure he's going to miss a game. Maybe it never came up in the TV broadcast, but I know there was a trainer working with him on his shoulder.
Yeah.
I don't know that he went in the tent. Can't remember that. I thought my wife was telling me that he did or did not. But I'm hoping he's okay. As a precaution, I think he didn't return to the game. We had the game. It was in the second half, I think, when I saw it.
Yeah.
So hopefully he's okay. The good news, the running backs are still looking pretty good. Let's brag about 25 a little bit. McNeil did not look out of place. He's got hot feet, and he's got good vision, and he's maybe a little more capable of making a guy miss than some other ball carriers that we have around. All ball carriers have strengths and weaknesses. Maybe some guys are a little better running through tackles. I think it's entirely possible that McNeil might be a little more elusive. I'll leave that up to the running back coach to figure that out. But it's safe to say you're not embarrassed to put him in the game because he does have an idea of how to play.
Let's go back to our Iowa Smokehouse call line. Let's go to Vincent. Vincent, welcome to the show. Thanks for being patient.
Oh, no problem, Corey. Don and Corey, good evening. How are you guys?
Very well, Vincent. How are you?
Oh, hanging in there. I guess my first question is, playing a UMass team, this is kind of what you expect, out of the Hawkeyes, playing a lower level or playing lower level competition. But are you encouraged by what you saw from the passing game? Are you kind of just in that waiting period like most of us? And I ask because, Corey, I agree with you.
I'm encouraged.
Yeah, but again, I'm encouraged, but Corey kind of touched on it, Don, before you came on. I just don't see us do it. Sorry. Oh, I just don't see us doing this.
Go ahead,
when
Vincent.
it comes to. Oh, can you guys hear me? Okay.
We lost him. Now you're back.
Oh, can you guys hear me?
Yeah, we got you, Vincent.
Oh, okay. Corey, you kind of said it earlier. I don't see us doing this when it comes to traveling up to Rutgers or going to Indiana. I just don't see us coming out of the gate like we did today. So that's why I'm asking. I know you might just from sight feel like you're encouraged by it, but it's good to see. But I just don't see us doing this against.
I'm actually. Can I just say this? I'm actually really surprised that Coach just said he's encouraged by it. Not that I think Don is pessimistic. That's not my implication.
Well, I didn't qualify it. I just said encouraged. I didn't say how much encouraged am I.
Well, I'm just being honest, Don.
You're either discouraged or encouraged. I'm encouraged.
No, that's not. That's.
All right. Well, you're neutral then. That's another option.
Well, look. Who are you to make these arbitrary options? I don't believe that there is only.
Well, what 37 years of coaching entitles me to do.
Oh, yes. Yes, indeed, Don. Throw it out there.
Had to pull that out and hit Corey over the head with.
I'm just saying, I'm more, to answer your question, Vincent, I'm not in the discouraged area after today, but just based on what we saw today, I'm still in the wait and see mode. To me,
yes,
Iowa did enough of what they needed to do.
Yes.
But I mentioned this earlier, and it was brought up by Tekun here in the chat. I'm not saying you're going to abandon the pass against Rutgers, but it goes back to game planning and production, right? Like there were guys open tonight, right? And so it made it a little bit easier on Mark to be able to connect with some guys early. And yes, they were more aggressive. So will those two things change against Rutgers and against Indiana? I don't know. I mean, I just don't know. I know. Here's what I know. I know Rutgers and Indiana are both substantially better than UMass. Substantially better. So, and Rutgers is on the road. So the question is, will Iowa be able to do it even if they do attack? And then the second question is, will they even bother attacking? Because we haven't seen Iowa attack early like they did in the first quarter much during Kirk's tenure or even since Tim took over. Now it's year 2 of the Tim Lester era. So maybe game 3 of year 2, I mean, you can convince me that, hey, Albany matchup wise, how they were playing Iowa defensively, that led to more, cramming it down your throat, 300 plus yards rushing. I get that. Iowa State was dropping 8. They're a tough team to pass against. So you can convince me that way, but I still got to see it. I'm not convinced based on the fact that Iowa came out swinging against UMass. It's almost like overcompensating, right? Like I'm not saying Iowa totally was overcompensating today, but like I said to Alex earlier, Vincent, you heard me ask him, like, what did you expect Iowa to do in the first place?
I know that was exactly kind of my point is if I'll be honest with you, I know it's going to sound kind of nuts, but if we passed on every play, I'd have been just fine with that. Just fine with that so we could get the reps in for the quarter or for Gronowski and the receivers. But also you want to get something going offensively in the pass game that you can take into the next week with you. So I know it's not going to happen passing every down, but if I'd have seen that, I'd be like, good, pass it every damn down, see what we can do, see what the receivers can do. But the reason I bring it up as far as is it encouraging, I don't see us doing that going forward. I just think my honest take on today's game is it's UMass. I think Iowa, Kirk, and Tim knew, hey, if we can take some risk and just try to open it up out of the gate, this is the game. And I think that's what they did, but they're going to revert right back to the same style of offense come the Rutgers game Friday night. That's just my take on it. That's why I wanted to ask you guys.
Well, I'll tell you this. Let me just say this. I will be very discouraged.
Yes.
If they play, you know what I'm going to say, Vincent? If next Friday they go out and revert back to the conservative play,
yep,
I'm going to be like, well, here
we go again.
I'm going to say nothing has changed.
Yep,
nothing.
Here we go again.
I don't care what they do against UMass. I don't care what the approach is against UMass if it doesn't mean something moving forward. Don, go ahead.
Let me contribute. Let me make a couple of comments about Rutgers. I was aware opening week, Rutgers versus Ohio. Ohio, as you know, is one of the more consistently good teams in the MAC.
Yep. And so, by the way, an Ohio team that tested Ohio State for a half today, and Ohio State eventually pulled away, but Ohio hung with them for a while.
Absolutely. The game started. I'm making notes here. Rutgers is up first, 12 plays, 75 yards for a touchdown. My initial impression, Rutgers is better on offense than they've been. I still believe that to be true. Based on 3 games. My God, how many points did they score? Scored 60 today, I know that. How many in the first game? I can't recall. I don't have the final score. Just got my notes in the first half. But here's the first half alone. I'm talking about game 1 against a pretty solid MAC team. Rutgers goes 75 yards for a touchdown. And guess what? Ohio answers with a lengthy TD drive of their own. Now it's 7-7. Rutgers stalls in the red zone of the second drive. Field goal makes 10-7. And then Rutgers does hit a wheel route. They got a transfer from North Texas, a receiver that's good, explosive, not very tall, but he can play. The name is D.T. Sheffield. Now it's 17-7 Rutgers. Guess what? Ohio comes back and goes with another lengthy TD drive. And I'm sitting here thinking, Rutgers is better on offense than they've been. Maybe the good news for us, maybe they're a little more suspect on defense. Frankly, in 3 games, I think that's still where I am with them. I think they are very definitely improved. I heard the Big Ten Network say that too yesterday on the show. Rutgers is without question better on offense than they've been. Maybe not as good on defense, but we're also talking about Shiano. Have you ever seen Rutgers that didn't have a decent defense? They're almost always good.
But that was brought up earlier by Alex. He said, well, you can't say their defense is good. They gave up 31 to Ohio. And I'm just like, well, they haven't played anybody. So we just don't know. So I'm gonna lean back on what I know about Greg Schiano teams, and that is that they play tough defense. When Iowa goes out there, they don't throw a bunch of. Have they ever, Vincent, you would know this, do they ever go out to Piscataway since Rutgers joined the conference? Have they ever gone to Piscataway and scored a bunch of points? Iowa.
No, I think the widest margin of victory we had was 2 or 3 years ago when Cooper kind of had his coming out party. I don't know if you remember, he had that pick that was returned over the shoulder pick, and then he returned it to the house. I think we won that game by maybe almost 20, if I remember correctly. And I could be wrong, but I thought it was a pretty. We held Rutgers to I want to say 10 points. I think we were up in the 27-ish range. But again, I could be wrong. I'm gonna look at it right now, so I know. So Iowa played Rutgers last at home and won 22-0 in 2023. The game you're talking about is 2022, and they won 27-10. So yeah, okay. There's still a fairly low scoring game, but they did. Yeah, you're right. They did win by 17. I'm thinking. So 2016, of course, that was the George Kittle, C.J. Beathard year. They won by 7. And I feel like that 2022 game, that 17-point win was closer. It was because we had 2 defensive touchdowns because Kayvon Merriweather had a fumble that he picked up and returned for a TD. Cooper had that over-the-shoulder INT that he returned the house for a TD. Our offense wasn't doing it. It was our defense.
Yeah. So – go ahead, Don.
There's no doubt in my mind this is a better offense than Rutgers has had in recent years.
Yes, agreed. Yep. I think it's going to be close. I know you said 14 points, Corey. That's very, very plausible, but I think it's going to be a little closer than that. I would say 7, It's going to be within one score.
Well, that's scary.
Well,
if it
because
is,
again, I don't think we're going to come out of the gate like we did today. I hate to say it. I hope we do. I hope I'm wrong, and I hope I'm eating my words. I don't foresee.
I tend to agree with you. Don, do you think Iowa's going to come out swinging like they did in the first quarter today? If you had to guess, will they do that next week against Rutgers?
Well, let me make this observation. Reflecting back on the Iowa State game, in many ways, I think you'll admit this is true, Corey. In many ways, Iowa State beat Iowa last week because Iowa State did a better job of playing like Iowa than Iowa did.
Yep. 100%.
It's a good way to play. The thing that concerns me, if we show up with a conservative approach, Rutgers wins games a lot the same way Iowa does too. In the past, they've won games without being very flashy, but running the ball well, not giving up big plays, being sound on defense. That's a concern because if we get into a rock fight, it's a game we might lose.
Well,
I think our best chance is to. I'll put it this way. I don't think we're going to hold them to. It's going to be a challenge to hold them under 20 points because they're a good offense. I realize they haven't played the toughest schedule yet, but anybody that's watched them would say they're improved on offense, no doubt about it.
So based on what you're saying, you're making me think Iowa might go out there and lose.
It's very.
I think we better play. I think we better play to win. If we show up and play not to lose, that's a problem.
But that's the concerning part, Don, is I'm sure you know Kirk Ferentz teams on the road in short weeks on either coast, when we come out of the gate, it's going to be a run, pass. It's going to be a run. And this is the part that is so frustrating is I would much rather us go out there and, just like you said, be aggressive. And if we're aggressive and still losing, okay. But don't go out there and just try to play conservative ball and still lose. And the fans are like, we didn't even put forth a concerted effort to be aggressive. We just played safe ball. That's what kind of gets fans disgruntled, is because we're constantly playing safe ball. And that leads me to my next question. And Don, this is for you as well as Corey, but how much of an influence do you, or does Kirk Ferentz have on the game plan? Do you think he sits down with Tim and says, hey, Tim, this is how I want it called? Like, do you think that Tim is almost maybe, I don't want to say handcuffed, but I've heard other commentators, and I want to say I heard Joel Klatt maybe allude to it last week versus Iowa State. But do you think Kirk is doing that? Or does that happen? Do the head coaches say, hey, look, we're on the road, short week, this is what I want to have the offense doing? Is that what happens?
Well, I think Kirk certainly has an influence on our game planning, with just the basics. Do we want to be more aggressive? I'll give you a prime example. Remember, we had a game against Ohio State in Kinnick not too many years ago. We beat Ohio State convincingly.
Oh, yeah.
And I remember the week of the game, I remember having a discussion with Brian. I said, Brian, we better throw caution to the wind, because if we don't, we're not going to beat Ohio State. And I don't know that had anything to do with it, but we were very aggressive with how we called that game, and it paid off. 45-26, something like that. I can't remember the score.
We were aggressive, but we were at Kinnick. That's when we're at Kinnick, I think things are much, much different.
You're right, and it did help that we had a pick six, I think, on the first offensive snap for Ohio State.
Absolutely helps. Yeah, when you get a gifted 7 seconds out of the gate, that always helps. I feel that Kirk has that stranglehold over the offensive coordinator where it really hinders. And Don, you know this, offense, having rhythm on offense certainly helps. Getting momentum on offense certainly helps. And if you're hindering that by playing safe ball, and Corey, you can attest to this as a fan, you sit there and you're watching and you just get so frustrated. And it angers you, because you're like, why are we not? It's not sustainable in today's Big Ten, at least from, my perspective, because you look at the other teams, you look at, Indiana, Ohio State, Michigan, they're running fluid offenses, not playing safe ball. But what is Iowa doing? We're still running that late 90s, early 2000s offense, and it's just not sustainable.
Well, a baseball analogy comes to mind for me. It's hard to steal second with your foot on first.
Right. My next question I want to ask, this is for obviously for both of you. What is your, as far as your running back lineup, because we keep toying with this, I'm kind of done with the TJ Washington experiment. Corey, what is your lineup? And Don, what is yours?
I'm sorry.
No, I am.
You're
Jazz
done
Patterson.
with the TJ Washington experience? What has
Yes.
TJ Washington done to make you feel done with him?
I'll tell you exactly what it is.
By the way, real quick,
just
3 carries tonight for 18 yards. That's an average of 6 per carry, but go ahead.
Okay, I'll tell you why I'm done with TJ. He's an excellent athlete. I know he came from wide receiver to the RB room, but not only do we move him from the wide receiver room to the RB room, we put him in there as a RB2 behind. I'm having a brain fart with the kid that's injured right now. Who's that?
Moulton,
Kamari Moulton. So now he's starting the last 2 games. His vision, and I'm thinking Don may agree with this, he does not have the same vision as a Jazz Patterson. I don't know why we don't have Jazz Patterson in there as RB1, because his vision with the zone blocking scheme that we run almost fits perfect. Am I seeing shit? Is it just me?
Don, have you noticed a drop off in vision between Jazz Patterson to TJ Washington, or is there something else? I mean, Jazz Patterson just he's much more decisive. So I think that's maybe part of it, is maybe not so much vision, but just he's constantly looking to run downhill. Don, am I right? Or you think it's a difference in vision?
Oh gosh, a small sample with TJ, 3 carries for 18 yards. Jazz is a no-nonsense runner. That's true. He makes his decisions on the run.
Yes.
And his pads are down, and he never gets pushed back. He's always falling forward, or maybe running through an arm tackle here and there. So I like how he runs, that's for sure. I was impressed with McNeil too, but the question about McNeil, of course, when he was in the game,
Agreed.
UMass was already worn out. So, they were softened up, if you will, for him to excel. It's a good problem to have. The only thing I would say is it's not easy unless you actually study the video. That's the advantage the coaches have. Even the TV copy, I'm going to go back and look at it. But even then, it's still not as good as coach's copy. Coach's copy, of course, every play has 2 angles to it. You're looking at it from the end zone, you're looking at it from the press box too. And so you can slow it down and look at it frame by frame and get a better idea of who's better than who. Get a better idea of should he have been able to break that tackle or not. Or that was poor vision. This guy, I want to confirm that this running back has better vision. There's a lot of aspects to makeup of the best back, of course. It's a good problem to have. At least you've got guys that show a lot of potential, more than 1 or 2. And usually as the season goes on, of course, you'll figure it out. But your point is well taken. It would be nice if we could figure it out in practice. And we realize they don't practice with full speed tackling. But at least you still get, if you're going at close to game speed without tackling, what we call thud, you still get a good idea for, you try to scrutinize the practice video as best you can, because the game simply doesn't last that long when you start sharing a lot of snaps in a running game.
Well, correct me if I'm wrong, but Iowa runs primarily a zone blocking scheme as far as their offensive philosophy. Well, and if that's the case, when you run a zone blocking scheme, isn't it kind of predicated on the running back being able to see the cutback lanes, which it just seems to me, like Corey, you just said it, Jazz, when he sees them, he hits them and he's hitting them full speed. And a lot of times he's so close to breaking long gains. TJ Washington, it's almost like as soon as he gets to the first set of tacklers or the backers on the defense, he's going down. That's the part I don't like to see. Like, let's keep it moving. Isn't it zone blocking? Isn't it based on cutback, Don and Corey?
Well, you just run the daylight. Sometimes daylight's on the front side. Sometimes it's a cutback opportunity. So the good backs, we ran a daylight play with Dennis Mosley. We're back in year one now. Year one, we had a play called 43-47 scoop draw. It was a daylight play that started to the weak side of the formation, but the truth of it is it can hit anywhere across the front. And if you're going to run plays like that and give the ball to the back with some depth, obviously that running back's got to have really good vision and having a spurt to get through the opening in a short amount of time. And Dennis Mosley had that. You might recall his first year, he had really not done much of anything before we got here. In year one with us, he ran for something like 1,400 yards. I can't remember how many yards. It was at least 1,200, maybe more. I can't remember. It was a lot of yards. People thought, where's this guy been? Well, our offense is more predicated on running to daylight, and he was good at it.
Well, I just think Jazz does a better job of that as far as what he sees. And when he sees it, he hits it hard, kind of like Corey said. But moving on, Corey, you are correct. I had 5 drops earlier as well. 2 by Parker, 1 by, is it Vanamene? And then 2 actually by Seth Anderson. And as far as the posts and the comments or posts made about Gronowski and Brown, I think, Don, you kind of said it to a T. There's a reason that Gronowski's the starter. Not only can he make the throws, but his running ability, I don't think you can compare to anybody in the Big Ten with the kind of arm that he has. So I don't think it's even a debate. However, with that being said, and Don, you kind of hit the nail on the head, we're in good hands going forward because not only do you have Gronowski this year, then you got Hank Brown sitting in the wings, learning everything, kind of or getting a better grasp on the offense. But I do think he's just a better passer. His passes aren't wobbly; they're smooth. It's a crisp spiral. So I just think we're in good hands going forward.
And I don't even think, real quick, let me interject. I don't even know that he's the starter next year, to be quite frank.
Hank Brown?
The intel that I've gotten over the last 2 months has made me think that it's someone else. But we'll see.
I mean, are you talking about Hecklinski, or are you talking about? I've heard things too about Hecklinski that he's a gamer. He's a gamer.
I just keep hearing that he's the future at quarterback, and I mean things are so fluid, right? Guys can hop in the portal and something. Well, that there was at one point we called Carson May a 4-star quarterback. And now he's playing. He was. So
I know. I said it to you.
Ken O'Keefe. Listen, I'm not ripping on Ken O'Keefe, but he was a 4-star recruit because Ken O'Keefe brought him in. He's playing tight end.
Yep. I saw that.
Abilene?
Abilene Christian, because he went from Iowa to Wyoming to I think you're correct, Abilene Christian. He's now playing tight end with the 0.
Yeah, I'm not trying to, I promise I'm not mocking him. I'm mocking the fact that
I saw that too though.
I'm mocking the fact that we assume this because this kid, I remember when he committed to Iowa initially, using Carson May as an example, Don, a couple of your early questions as well. What level of high school is he playing at? I don't think he played at if I'm not mistaken, he's an Oklahoma kid. I don't think he played at a real high level of high school football at Oklahoma. It's just so hard to evaluate. You got so many kids out there, and it's not an exact science. And Iowa struggled in that department, evaluating and recruiting quarterbacks during that era of offensive football at Iowa anyways. So I feel a little bit differently now in the fact that Hecklinski came over with Warren, Coach R, and then, with the Lester connection. I feel better about being able to kind of trust what I'm hearing. But with the portal and NIL and all the things are so fluid. Hecklinski could hop in the portal in December and he's gone. And then, their quarterback next year could be somebody who's playing right now down at South Florida. I mean, we just have no idea. But I think Hank Brown's the best guy right now, Vincent, to be the backup. It sounds like he knows better than probably anybody in that room. But he does not have the athleticism that Hecklinski does. And I've heard the same thing what you just said, that Hecklinski is a gamer. but no, that would be a great. I hope those guys stick around and those guys compete. And I hope Jimmy Sullivan improves, and I hope Ryan Fitzgerald improves, and those guys can all battle for the job next year. That would be ideal. It's just not much in college football with the quarterback position is ideal as it relates to development anymore.
No, I 100% agree. 100%. The other thing I was going to say is McNeil. I didn't know a whole lot about him coming into the season. I kind of got what I got from what the media outlets were reporting. But I got to say, from what I saw today, now granted it's against UMass, but he kind of gives me little glimpses of another Iowa running back that wore 25, if you guys can remember, in Akram Wadley. I'm just saying, out of the gate with his vision and his cutback ability, plus his ball or his he's got soft hands as well. He kind of gave me a little glimpse of Akram. So I'm curious.
Well, I hope he's a better. I'll say this: I hope he's a better runner between the tackles than Akram was, because Akram was best when he got the ball in space. But it'd be nice to not have to have a guy that was. I mean, Akram was sort of one-dimensional. As electric as he was, he did not run the ball very well between the tackles. But, yeah, I mean, to your point, he does have the ability to make guys miss. And when you get him in the open field, he does seem to have soft hands. That's one thing Akram had. But Akram never had an NFL career because he never put on enough weight and wasn't good enough between the tackles. Part of that was, I think, the physical side of things as well. So, yeah. And
you're right.
The nice thing, too, is going to add one more thing real quick, Vincent, with McNeil is he's got several older guys that are going to be able to, kind of take him under their wing. And guys who, like Moulton's out right now, but I have no doubt he's talking to him on the sideline, working with him. Jazz Patterson, isn't he a senior? Somebody asked me that during the game today. Like, how old's Jazz Patterson? I'm like, I think he's a senior.
I don't know.
No, I think he's a junior.
Is he a redshirt junior?
That I don't know, but I'm fairly certain he's a junior. He cannot be a senior.
You say he cannot be a senior. He came in with Caleb Johnson.
No, he came in the year after Caleb. Because he was initially a 4-star coming out of Florida, but then there were some issues with his high school.
Yeah, no, I know the story.
But I'm almost positive he's a year after Caleb.
Okay.
But you can.
No, he's 20. He was 2022 class.
Yeah, so this is he'd be a junior because he played his freshman year.
Well, if he was 2022 class, then this is his fourth year.
No, this is 2025.
22, 23, 24, 25.
Well, but he came in the 22 class. I don't think he played, or I don't think.
Don,
or does it show?
You're going crazy here.
Does
if
it
he was
show?
part of the
Well, wait a minute. He's year 4. Maybe he was redshirted. He's got a 5th year.
No. But if he wasn't, he played as a. That's what I'm saying.
Yeah, he played as a freshman.
Okay. I'm not going to debate that. I'm saying this is year 4 for him. So I think you're right in that he has another year of eligibility, but he has been here since 22. He played in 3 games in 22. So you're right. Played in 3 games in 22. So he saved that redshirt year, but he is a 4th year junior.
Oh, okay. Okay. I got you.
He's an old guy.
That may be that. Well, I like his running style. I don't know why we keep. I get what Don's saying. It's a good problem to have, but sometimes having 3 or 4 decent running backs doesn't mean you necessarily have a really good one. That's the thing. I would rather have Jazz in there, see what he can do, especially in Big Ten play, because you're going up against stiffer competition, better D lines, better linebackers, better defenses overall. I'd rather have somebody who runs hard. TJ gets caught behind the line sometimes. I'm just not a fan of that, and he gets taken down. So that's kind of why I'm leaning on Jazz. But anyway, I'm taking up way too much of your guys' time. It's 11:40. I'm sure you guys want to get to bed. Corey, thank you so much for taking the call. Don, thanks for answering all the questions. And last thing I'll say is, as an Iowa fan who watched, I caught Don and Hayden's last few years when I was younger. Granted, I was in my teens, but they were a hell of a fun team to watch. Don, I just got to tell you and give you a ton of credit. You guys were so fun to watch. And yes, Tim Dwight would smoke Caden Wugin because they're both extremely aggressive. They're excellent return men as far as how they use angles. But Tim, not that Caden doesn't have that same mentality, because you can tell he does this year, where he feels that he can score almost every time he touches it. But Tim was so confident he thought anytime the ball was around him, he could grab it and score. And Don, correct me if I'm wrong, but he was that confident of a player and that fast. He wanted that ball because he thought every time he was going to touch it, he was taking it to the house. That's just how Tim looked at it.
Now, one of my favorite stories about Tim, take you up to the big house. This is the year that Michigan won the national championship.
97, I saw that game.
And I'm screaming for us to burn a timeout because the bench is going to let the clock run out at the end of the first half.
Yep.
We finally get the timeout called. And I admit, all I was thinking is, let's try to block the punt. Michigan's backed up.
Yep.
Michigan punts. Before Tim leaves the bench, he tells Coach Fry, Coach, this one's going back. Tim runs through the entire – we tried to block the punt. Tim runs through the entire Michigan team for a touchdown with no time on the clock. You remember that?
I do. I was actually at work that Saturday watching because we were up, and I'm sure, Don, you remember. I think we were up 20 or 21-7. Was that right, at halftime?
Something like that.
And
I know
still
they
ended up
had
losing.
It was the closest game Michigan had all year. I do remember that.
Yeah, we
I think
came out on
24-21
fire.
final, something like that.
Yeah. No, I do remember that
Yeah.
game. If you get it, I'm sure you've watched him. Have you ever seen Corey Tim's highlight reel on YouTube?
Sure. Yeah, absolutely.
He
Yeah.
was. They didn't call him a missile for nothing because, man, as soon as he got it, he was gone. Anyway, I'm rambling. The last thing I wanted to say was I do want to I echo what I've been watching the Big Ten Network all night, but just echo what they're saying about Kirk. You have someone that's been in the game for 27 years. Now he's got the record as far as Big Ten wins for a D1 coach. Give the man all the credit in the world. He's done it the right way and molded men along the way. So just congratulations to him. It's awesome to see. And then you guys have a good night.
Thank you, Vincent. Appreciate the call. Good stuff. Yeah, absolutely echo that. It's going to be, I've said this before, it's going to be a sad day when Kirk hangs it up. And I don't know when that's going to happen. I saw some people were upset because we published a cut earlier in the week about, the potential of if things go awry this year, Kirk Ferentz hanging it up. He's been here for 26 years. I don't think it's disrespectful to talk about him maybe deciding enough's enough if something goes wrong. Like, I wouldn't blame him two bits if he does that after this year. Now, if they win and are successful, I think there's less of a chance he hangs it up, and I think he'll stick it out because I think he loves being a college football head coach. He loves Iowa. He loves mentoring these young guys, and it's part of what's made him great, a big part of what's made him great at Iowa. Blake, thank you for the super chat. He asks, why did Iowa seem to open up the passing game tonight compared to the ISU game? Different defensive coverage, competition, or mixture of both? I think it's a mixture of both, plus just kind of compensating for, I think, hindsight when you look back at what maybe didn't go right in those first two games, especially week 2. Don, your thoughts on that?
Well, honestly, as you look at UMass, if you just look at their numbers, of course, I didn't study their video, but I was aware of their numbers in game 1, game 2. They seem to be more vulnerable with pass defense. That seemed to be a weaker aspect of their game. They defended the run better. And frankly, tonight, I think they hung in there pretty well, to a UMass fan that's looking for some kind of encouragement. I did think UMass played hard for a long time. They were trying. We simply had better players than they did. I thought they hung in there and competed. We didn't just run through them like they were not there. I mean, I'm talking about run now. They defended the run fairly well. I don't know how many times we had to carry the ball. We were over 200 yards run and pass, but it took a while to get there. They gave yardage grudgingly versus in our running game. Our longest run, we did have a 20-yard run. That was reaching on the reverse, right? I think that was a true reverse. Didn't we fake the ball on the line and pitch it back?
Yes.
Bridget coming around. That was 20 yards. So our longest run by our running backs, McNeil for 17. Obviously, that happened late against tired players or second-team players. Jazz had 11 yards. The bottom line, Mark had 13 on one of his scrambles. But the bottom line, they didn't miss that many tackles. It's not like we made them look silly with their run defense. They hung in there fairly well. We ran 40 times for 213 yards, but then take away the lost yardage and we're down to 201. So we averaged 5.0. You might recall that was my goal for the Iowa State game. I'll admit that was a pretty lofty goal. But it's not like we just, let me say it this way. What was our average against Albany? I think it was 7+ in the run. So we didn't just run over a rough shot. They fought back a little bit. Made us work.
Absolutely. Before we get to our next Iowa Smokehouse caller, we do want to take a moment to thank RTI Threads. They've been with us. And, of course, if you've not shopped RTI Threads, here's their website, their NIL site. So they are partnered with Jacob Gill, Aaron Graves, Zach Lutmer, Carson Shire, and you can shop all of their gear. We'll just slide up to the Jacob Gill gear. We are actually giving away a hoodie and ball cap pair of apparel just for selecting being the closest guess on our UMass Iowa prediction. So if you're not following From the Hawkeye of the Storm on Instagram, Facebook, Twitter, be sure you do that because we're going to be doing these giveaways throughout the year, courtesy of RTI Threads. And you can customize these products by color, certainly size, etc. But we're giving away the authentic Nike pullover fleece hoodies, or I should say we gave one. We're giving one away this week, and then we're giving away more gear between those 4 different player RTI athletes over the coming weeks ahead. So be sure you check out the website, and you can learn all about how you can customize, choose your size, your color. These are authentic. These are the official merchandise lines of each of these players: Jacob Gill, Carson Shire, Zach Lutmer. Again, go to rtithreads.com/NIL. You can just click the link in our description. Here's the NIL division for RTI Threads. And again, support these great athletes that have formed the backbone of Iowa football this year. So again, appreciate RTI Threads for being with us. And rtithreads.com/NIL is that website. Let's go back to our Iowa Smokehouse call line. Thank you for calling Iowa Postgame with Coach Don Patterson. Who's on the line?
Hey, this is Chris in Wyoming.
Hey, Chris.
I don't know why I'm getting feedback again. I just have to ignore that. So I just have a couple things to say. I'm calling from Wyoming, and it's an hour earlier, but I'm going to try to keep it short.
Okay.
So I want to say that I remember I was working at the university when Kirk was hired, and I worked with some people that were in the I Club. They were furious with his hire. They were so upset that it wasn't Bobby Hansen. And I remember, that was the attitude of so many people. So Kirk came in having to deal with adversity of public opinion. So and then look what he created. And so I would never count him out.
Sure.
I would never count him out.
Yeah. Great point. No, that's great stuff. I mean, the storyline with Coach Ferentz and Bobby Stoops and the hiring process in '99 was well documented. But Chris, that's one of the things that I'll take away. If Kirk retired tomorrow, Don, one of the big things I would reflect on is not only the big wins and the longevity and the making, men out of boys, but the resiliency, the stick-to-itiveness that he has, and all these things play hand in hand, right? But I mean, how many resilient moments and comeback stories, and whether you're talking about just from day one, maybe some of that outside criticism when Bowlesby went with Kirk, and you go back to the rough start that was talked about. Anthony Herron brought it up on the broadcast tonight. I mean, Kirk apparently told Anthony here in lead up to today's game that, hey, if my career had started in 2024, if you start your career like 3-18 or whatever he was, you probably wouldn't make it to year 3. But he did, and he turned the whole thing around. And you can go story after story, year after year, whether you're talking about the Rabdo scandal that a lot of people, it looked bad, and I don't think Kirk handled it great, but they bounced back from that. You have the 2020 scandal with Chris Doyle. and I'm not just saying you excuse Kirk of any responsibility from those incidents, but they start 0-2 in 2020, then they win 6 straight games. By the way, they blew a 17-point lead in game 2 of 2020. That lawsuit, class action suit, I guess technically it was a class action suit by those players against Kirk, was announced the week before game 1. He bounces back from that. 2016, they get blown out at Penn State, only to beat number 3 Michigan the very next week in Kinnick Stadium. I mean, you go year after year after year, and then go into the Brian era where they'd have no offense and yet find ways to win 10 games. You talk about the division all you want. They were still winning games, getting to Big Ten championship games. So absolutely, Chris, the resiliency and the ability to bounce back when people count him out and count his teams out is one of the things that makes Kirk Ferentz great.
And that's why I think I read the cards on the team, and I think that that's the strength of the team, is his ability to deal with adversity, which they're going to have to deal with this season. We already see it, but we're also seeing that they're still building, they're strategizing, they're together. I feel like this team is really together, and they have a lot of potential. So I put my money on watching them develop throughout the season. And Kirk is even saying that the development. They're still kind of rusty in some areas, like those pass drops. I thought they were well-thrown balls. I'm not an expert. I've only been watching football since I was 10, okay? But I thought that those passes, some of those drop passes were well-thrown, and it was the receiver that it was on them. But and I think all this is going to come together. So I think we shouldn't count them out and be discouraged, because I think they're going to get better. There's a lot of strength, and I think that the coaches are probably going to do an excellent job of keeping them focused and keeping them unified as a team. And that's what it's going to take, as far as I'm concerned, to get through this season. I mean, it's going to be rough. I mean, the team that we saw today compared to the team we saw in the first game, no comparison. I watched that first game, and I called my daughters in Denver. I'm like, we don't have a passing game, Well, guess what? We do. So it's developing, and I'm encouraged by that. But that's my 2 cents on that. The other thing I want to say, Tim Dwight, my daughters ran track. They went to high school with Tim Dwight, and they ran track for 4 years. So I watched Tim Dwight run track for 4 years. And I can honestly say there will never be another Tim Dwight. There will never be another Tim Dwight, not in my lifetime. Just his conditioning. And I got to tell you a funny story. At one track meet, it was a home meet, he'd already run his 100-meter or whatever, and he took off his shirt, and there was an audible gasp from the women in the crowd because of his physique. I did not gasp because I realize that's inappropriate, but people, they were just like, oh my God, yes. He was just, he was just amazing. Well, a nice guy too. Nice guy.
Real quick, everybody did. When Don took off his shirt when he was at Army, all the women did that as well. So it's not inappropriate.
There were no women in Army back in those days.
It's not inappropriate, Chris. It's just reality. Go ahead, Don.
Well, here's something some listeners might not be aware of. Tim, of course, never redshirted. He played 4 straight years for us, and he was done. And you remember what happened as a rookie in the NFL? He returned the opening kick in the Super Bowl. I think that was his rookie year, wasn't it?
Yep.
But here's the rest of the story. Do you know what he did in the spring after that football season? Came back to Iowa and won the 100 meters in the Big Ten. A lot of people aren't aware of that. He won the Big Ten that year. 4 years in football was done, but he had a redshirt year available in track, and he ran as a fifth-year senior and won the Big Ten 100 meters. And you got to be able to run like crazy to do that, that's for sure. Can't remember his time. I believe he's down around the 10-3 or something. Very, very fast time, obviously.
Yep.
Might have been lower.
He he was a little guy. He wasn't a big guy. So I was always kind of afraid for him. But there was, he was all muscle. He was going to bounce off anybody. You know what I mean? And he was fearless. So that's why I say there'll never be another Tim Dwight. I just don't believe that. So, and I guess really that's all I have to say, except I'm not going to call in all the time on football because I'm intimidated.
Yep. I am too,
but
Chris.
I thought
I'm scared to death every time I come on this show with Don. I'm scared to death, but I still do it. I'm still here. I'm still
learned so much from watching, but I also like listening to the show. So many people are negative. It's like, we don't know what's going to happen, and I was happy that we only lost Iowa State by 3 points. You know what I mean? So I'm just, I'm a diehard Hawk fan. Can't wait to get back to Iowa City before I die, and watch the game in person. So, but keep up the good work, and Don, I really appreciate your commentary and your expertise. I learn a lot. So
I appreciate that too. Please call again.
Okay. Well, thank you guys.
Thank you, Chris. Appreciate the phone call. Good stuff. Okay. Let's see. Before we get to our next caller, thank you, Blake, by the way, for the super chat. And real quick shout out to both Doug and to Blake for being premium members. It is very much appreciated. Blake, I don't agree with you on this. I don't believe that was a roughing the passer play. When you slow it down on the TV film, it looks like roughing. It may look like targeting. The refs got it right by picking up the targeting flag. What else is Carson Shire supposed to do? I think we're a little bit overprotective when it comes to quarterbacks, Don, especially when they get out of the pocket. He decided to throw, but what's a rusher, what's a blitzer supposed to do, a pursuer, a defender in that situation? Full speed. And Carson turned away, but his momentum's carrying him into the quarterback. Man, I say you decide to go out of the pocket and threaten the defense with your legs.
Didn't he strike him more with his shoulder than his helmet?
Yes, he did. And I don't think it was that late. When you slow it down, it looks late.
Yeah.
But I don't think it was that late. And real quick, too, thank you to Scott with the super chat. He says, I hope the offense stabilizes now that the Cyhawk game is behind us. The lack of sacks last week really hurt us, given that the offense was struggling. And Don, did you notice substantial improvement? I know you got to read between the lines because of the opponent, and Phil was once again deliberate with when he blitzed, sent extra pressure. But did you notice a marked improvement from the defensive line from last week to this week?
Well, I think what matters so much is who's doing the pass pro.
Right. Yeah,
well,
exactly.
I was encouraged. 5 sacks, that's a lot of sacks. If we average 5 a game, we'd probably be leading the nation or close to it.
Well, I think if a lot of teams played UMass, they'd be leading the nation in sacks. But anyways, no offense to UMass. Thank you, Scott, for the super chat. And Blake, thank you for the super chat. Iowa State is definitely not as good as their rank. And I know that's a common perception. I would say it was a bit of a trap game today. I need to see more. Kansas State has not looked like the team we thought they might be, but it's still early, and Iowa State is still undefeated. Blake adds with this super chat, have we talked about the blocked punt? I don't recall a blocked punt in the KF era. There have been some, by the way, Blake. I mean, I can think of one off the top of my head. Some have been tipped. He says, I'm sure there is one, but kind of blew my mind. Don, what happened on the blocked punt with protection?
I was going to ask you. My perception was the punter was slow. I think that's part of the problem.
Okay.
I do recall this. He caught the ball and he spun the ball or flipped the ball, whatever. He adjusted the ball. And I realized that's okay. That's, you want to be able to possess it in your hands the way you want to spin it or drop it on your foot. I just thought he was kind of deliberate. But I will admit that shield back there, those 3 guys, there was a guy that came, I believe the replay showed this. I didn't get a good look at it in the stadium. What did the TV show? Should that guy been blocked by our left shield blocker or not?
I'd have to look back. To be honest, I don't want to speak out of turn. I'd have to look back at it. It seemed like multiple things broke down, though.
Yeah.
There was a lot of pressure on Reese Dakin in a hurry, and I didn't notice him taking an extraordinary amount of time spinning that ball and getting in position for his punt. So I felt like it was primarily a protection issue, but I'd have to go back and look at it again.
Well, those guys, you know what I mean by the shield. Those big protectors.
Three guys standing. Yeah.
And nowadays, of course, those are big bodies in there. And there's three of them. And obviously, they have to protect that space right there in front of the punter's foot. And in theory, there's no way everybody can get to that block point without having to run through the shield. And, of course, you should never split a couple of blockers within that shield. If I'm not mistaken, the guy off the left came free and got to that block point. And maybe there was an alignment error on the part of the shield. I don't know. I just couldn't tell. My perception was he was a little bit slow, but maybe not. You had a better look at it than I did because you saw it more than once, I'm sure.
And Blake says that we have the wrong player. I have the wrong play, that the roughing the passer call was before the phantom targeting call. I'll have to go back and look at it because I did not notice that roughing call that you're talking about, Blake. So I apologize for that. Let's go back to our Iowa Smokehouse call line. Thank you for calling Iowa Postgame with Coach John Patterson. You're on the air.
Yeah, this is Dick up in Jackson, Michigan.
Hey, Dick.
You were talking about the Tim Dwight and the Michigan game in '97. I was at that game, and Tim sitting amongst all the Michigan fans. I can remember one guy yelling out very loudly, I think either before or after the end of the first half, "Don't kick it to that guy." Tim Dwight, because he really tore it up. I'm kind of a on and off listener, and I enjoy Don's comments and all, and I've been following Iowa football. My first recollection was 1952 as an 11-year-old.
Wow.
Listening to Evie came in there, and they beat Ohio State, and the headlines were Iowa unpacked their Rose Bowl luggage, took them out of the Rose Bowl, and
well, 52. I think you may have all of us beat because the fact that you have Evie memories is awesome. I love that.
Right. I ushered as a Boy Scout before, and when I was older in high school, I went down with the Cedar Rapids Post Office Auxiliary and had a concessions, but we got to watch most of the games. And then as a student for 5 years, when Evie was coaching, and I've maintained, had Evie stayed for about another 10 years, Iowa's reputation would be right up there with Michigan and Ohio State. But that's my personal opinion, and because I went to an awful lot of games, but I also, when I graduated from Iowa, I moved to Michigan, and I went to an awful lot of games at Michigan Stadium where the score was 50-something to nothing, and people think things are bad now. I can recall the 20-year drought where, although there were some seasons where they had maybe a 5-5 or 6-6 record, but never had a winning record. But I'll close. I could go on a lot of things, but the highlight of my lifetime was the 1950s when Evie took Iowa to the Rose Bowl twice in the latter 50s, and they won both games, and they set rushing records with Willie Fleming and Bob Jeter set records in the Rose Bowl that held up for many, many years. And I also recall that when Evie and his line coach, I can't remember his name, but when they recruited Alex Karras, they had him holed up in a hotel in Gary, Indiana, where nobody could find him before they got him signed. and it was and the other part in the 50s was Iowa went to the Final Four in the 50s. Bucky O'Connor was the coach, and they went to the Final Fours 2 times in that year. And the big tragedy was Bucky O'Connor was killed. He was going on Highway 218 up to Waterloo or Cedar Falls to talk, and they theorized that a flock of quail or pheasants flew up in front of him on the highway, and he swerved to avoid it, hit a tree, and was killed. But those the 50s were the highlights. And don't get me wrong, with Kurt and Hayden, it's been great. But that was in my youth, and that's the thing. I've been an Iowa fan. In fact, when I moved up here, I lived in Bay City for a number of years, and I moved to Jackson. And the only way I could find out what went on in a football game is I would stay up till midnight and listen to the rebroadcast on WHO of the games to really find out what the games were. So gone on and on, but I really enjoy, Don, your comments, and Corey, you got a good show, and keep it up.
Well, I enjoyed this phone call, and like I'll say this once, and we'll let you go, sir. I don't know that it's very often where we have a caller that can give Iowa history like 30 years before Don's recollection of Iowa history. So,
well,
you've accomplished
another
something.
thing I recall is as a little kid in the late 40s, falling asleep listening to Iowa basketball games, and Murray Weir and Dick Ives and those players were playing. So got a lot of real good memories.
Well, keep up the faith, sir. And I just got back from Okoboji a little while ago. So you said you're in Jackson, right?
Right.
Yeah. So I guess that's kind of in the vicinity. So yeah, don't be a stranger to the show, sir.
I'm in Jackson, Michigan.
Oh, you're in Michigan. I thought you said Jackson, Minnesota. Okay, Jackson.
No, Jackson, Michigan. In fact, it's 7 minutes after 1 right now.
Okay. Well, get some shut-eye. You got a game in six days to watch.
Well, I got the Lions to watch tomorrow.
Okay, so. There you go. Go Lions. All right, sir. Appreciate the phone call.
Have a good evening.
You too. Good stuff, Don. Always love to hear from new callers, especially someone who has the perspective of 1952 Iowa football. And I don't know that I've ever had somebody call into. I mean, I've heard stories about Forrest Evashevski, but I don't know that I've ever had somebody call in to this show and talk about Forrest Evashevski. Don, what do you? I mean, I see a question here in the chat about wanting you to tell them a bedtime story. We're not quite done. We're going to wrap this up here in the next few minutes, but I'll ask you the question. Did you get any stories when you got hired at Iowa with Coach Fry? Do you have any Forrest Evashevski stories? Because I've heard some crazy ones, and that was how many decades ago?
Well, we had a guy on our staff by the name of Bernie Wyatt, and Bernie was on those Rose Bowl teams in the late 50s. So I've heard a few stories from Bernie through the years. My impressions of Evie, he was a tough, no-nonsense coach. Not as warm and fuzzy as Hayden. Not as warm and fuzzy as Kirk either, I think. It was a different era. It worked well, obviously, but he was certainly respected for his toughness, mentally and physically. When he played, he was a tough guy. And certainly our team, I think players do reflect the personality of the coach. And Evie was a tough, no-nonsense guy. I think that's why we played football back in the 50s.
All right, let's run through quick. We've got a couple of people here on hold. Want to give a quick shout-out to Lemansky for being a premium member. And Lemansky, thank you for the super chat. He says, Corey, 37 years of coaching to your jugular by Coach. Go, Don, go.
Corey, I apologize if I overreacted.
I don't even remember what that was about. I'd have to go back. I'll go back later and listen to why you had to pull out your resume on me, but that's fine. I mean, your resume speaks for itself, but you feel free to pull it out and smack me with it whenever you feel is just, Don. So Lemansky, thank you for the super chat. He made up for it with the donation, Don. So Blake, thank you for the super chat as well. I think Kirk Ferentz going for it on 4th inside field goal range is a morality decision. They're up enough. If they get it, they get it. If they don't, no points for Iowa. Ferentz is not trying to run up the score. So, yeah. It was interesting, right? You're up 40 or whatever they were. And I thought, well, throw the ball. I'd like to see them throw the ball. But you agree with this? First of all, do you agree with that decision late in the game like this? Would you have done the same?
Late in the game, we ran the ball on 4th and long, right?
Yeah, I think that's what he's talking about, isn't it?
That's what he's talking about.
Yeah.
I was okay with that. I'd have been okay with it throwing it because obviously you should expect a team to throw if they need to earn a new set of downs.
Right.
If they don't think they can run for it, then logically they would throw.
And you got a backup quarterback in the game. I don't think that should be
right.
taken. You're not trying to run the score up. You're just trying to get your backup quarterback valuable reps.
Well, I was so grateful that we had a chance to run our offense in the 4th quarter. When I say it that way, Brown threw 7 passes, right? It's good. It's not just good for him. It's good for those offensive linemen. It's good for the receivers. They need to be able to run and catch. They need to be able to pass protect. So it's not really fair to them if you simply restrict them by just running the ball every down. And I was glad to see that we didn't. You might recall in the Albany game, I think Hank had 1 attempt.
Yeah.
Is that right?
Right. Not enough.
And
Yeah.
I believe that was pretty much an entire quarter of play too. But
right.
I think.
Yeah, not quite as. And Hank got in late 3rd quarter today. I think he got in maybe a third of the way through 4th quarter against Albany.
Gotcha.
But to your point, that he handed the ball off a lot in game 1, and they accomplished more getting him some reps where they called some shots for him, and that was good to see.
Yeah, and again, it's not just for him; it's for those offensive linemen.
Right.
It's for the wide receivers. It's for everybody out there.
All right, let's go back to our phone line, our Iowa Smokehouse phone line. Thank you for calling Iowa Postgame with Coach John Patterson. Who's on the line? Hello, you're on the air.
Is he not taking calls?
Hello, you're on the air.
Hey, Corey.
Hey, what's up, man?
This is Ricky.
Hey, Ricky.
Hey, I just wanted to ask about McNeil tonight. I thought he looked good on the couple carries that he had. Going forward, do you think you should get more snaps than Xavier Williams?
Who are you? Nate McNeil. I'm sorry, I didn't hear you say Nate McNeil. Do I think he should have more carries than Xavier Williams? No, just because
McNeil.
Yeah, McNeil. No, I don't think he's. Or I don't know what's happening behind closed doors, but based on what I've seen,
right.
Xavier Williams was really good week 1, and he's been in the system a little bit longer, right? He's been in the system twice as long as McNeil has. I think they're different types of backs. I think there's a possibility that in 2 years those two guys share the backfield, which is an intriguing thought because they have a different style, possibly a complementary style of one another. But Don, just to talk about Nate McNeil, you brought it up earlier with his ability to make guys miss, and I think it was Vincent that brought up maybe the comparison to Akram Wadley. But do you think he deserves more time, and is it too early to say, especially given the fact that he was running against the UMass backups?
But given Xavier Williams' performance last weekend in Ames, do you think his reps should have gone to McNeil's for a little spark, or do you think just wait and see on him? Too young, just talk it up.
Doing it in the 4th quarter of a game when you're leading by 40, it's not the same as doing it when the game's in doubt. So, really, it's not really fair to say that he outplayed simply because he had more yards. You got to factor in
Gotcha.
who's going
Okay.
against. I'm pretty sure that UMass put in a lot of backups too.
Yeah. All right. Thank you, boys. Go
Yep.
Hawks.
The Go Hawks, absolutely. Thank you for the call. And it's fair. I mean, if you want to say, hey, I want to see him get some carries when it counts, that's a fair. You can convince me of that. That's, especially with Moulton out, maybe they should get, McNeil a few carries. I don't know what's going on behind closed doors. I know we were really impressed with him at Kids Day. I know the coaching staff is impressed with him. He's the one true freshman that they committed preseason to playing and burning his red shirt. And with the depth they have at running back, that sort of surprised me. It was good to see Brevin Dahl get back in there. He's been hurt and haven't really seen him get any reps at running back in live game action, so that was good as well. But McNeil's time will come, whether it's now or whether it's in a year or 2 years, assuming he stays put. As we came to the conclusion earlier, yes, Jazz Patterson's in his 4th year, but he only played 3 games in year 1, which means he's a redshirt junior. So he will have 26 if he comes back to Iowa, but they will lose. Well, let's see. Who do they lose, Don? They don't lose anybody at running back. That's amazing.
Right.
That's amazing how young they've been there
Say
for
that.
a long time.
I think it'd be logical that somebody might leave.
We've been saying that for a while. The difference has been, in my opinion, from the outside looking in, the difference has been Liddell Betts, and now he's not there. Now, maybe Coach Young will be just as successful in retaining guys and making them feel that family atmosphere. We got to wait and see on that. So our super chat here from Scott. Thank you, Scott. He says, to win the Big Ten in 25-26, defense remains elite, but consistent, explosive offense, especially from the new QB, sparks Iowa's path to the Big Ten crown. Ohio State is the big obstacle. Wow. Those are aspirations, Don. Those are aspirations from Scott. But, hey, they're 0-0. They're 0-0 in the Big Ten. So that loss against Iowa State does not do anything. I know people are I've been getting ripped all week, Don, on social media because we clipped out a section from our live show last Saturday where I said, let's just pump the brakes on the season's over and it's time to jump off a cliff. And Mark is not like, just pump the brakes. Let's tone it down a bit and just wait and see what I'd say the same thing tonight. We didn't learn much tonight. It was good to see Iowa take some shots, but it doesn't convince me that they're back and we're, bring on Alabama and bring on Clemson. By the way, Clemson lost today. Huge kick at the end of that game by the Georgia Tech field goal kicker. But I digress. Scott, appreciate the passion and the donation, the super chat. And sure, I'm not going to count him out because, as we said earlier, you can't count out Kirk Ferentz anytime.
That reminds me, Corey, tonight I had a disappointing moment. In the first half, they stopped us. And I thought for a minute, oh my God, this might be a time when Kirk lets him do it. We were on the plus 48, I think it was, plus 47. So 8 yards back would be the other 45, right? That would be a 65-yard kick.
Okay.
It was to the south end zone, to the south upright. I thought for a minute Kirk might do it. It was early in the game. Of course, if he maybe a little bit of wind in our face.
And that was the blocked punt, correct?
Might have been. I can't remember what happened on that.
It had to have been because that was the first punt of the day, and it was the only punt of the day.
Oh, we only punted once?
I believe that's the case. Am I wrong on that?
No, you're probably right. Because I remember I said to Lisa, I said, have we punted all night? And she said, well, yeah, we had the blocked punt. I'm like, oh, yeah, I got to forget that.
Yep. It was only one punt on the night, Don.
A team punt for no yards.
So they should have let Drew Stevens kick a 65-yarder. Is that what you're telling me?
You and I both know it might have been good. That 54 yards that he made, right?
Had plenty of room.
That 54-yarder might have been through 65.
Yeah. Scott, thank you for this super chat as well. He says, to beat Rutgers, stretch their defense with passing, run effectively up front, make the QB scramble when needed. Good luck on Friday. Game's on Friday. He says, are you going, Corey? I do not have plans to be in Piscataway. Hey, if you're going to Piscataway, put your hand up in the live chat. I'd love to know how many people who are on this show are going to Piscataway. And Scott, if you're going to Piscataway, awesome. I will be with you in spirit, and we'll have live post-game coverage here. It's a Fox game, Don. You get the national stage on Fox on a Friday night. That's something. So the nation will be watching next Friday. And Bob says, Corey, you predicted the Weegan punt return to the house. Don, I did say that in my prediction video. I said Weegan will take one to the house in honor of his, or I should say, in bounce back from his poor performance in week 2, and he did that.
That's impressive, Corey. Can you give me some insight into what the market's going to do next week?
Oh man, yeah. I wish I knew. I wish I knew what Iowa was going to do next week, because I wish I knew what I was going to do next week. I don't even know what I want to do next week. So, Collector Z Dream, or maybe that's just Collector's Dream, I guess is the easier way to say that. Go Hawks, please hit the like button if you haven't already. Love when our viewers shout out the like button. Yes, please hit that thumbs up. It's very simple. Just scroll down for a second, hit that like button, and it helps us in the algorithm. Very much appreciate that. Let's go back to our Iowa Smokehouse line. Corey's on the line. Corey, welcome to the show. I'm sorry, your name. You have your name here as Kirk Ferentz forever. Is it fair to say you like yourself some Kirk Ferentz? Is that fair to say?
I love me some KF. KF all day, KF forever.
That's great. KF forever. That's,
yes,
sir. Yeah, go ahead.
No, great to see you guys. Don, great to see you. I have a little add-on. The gentleman that called from Jackson, Michigan, I really enjoyed him in the chat. They're all commenting. Really enjoyed that guy. I hope he calls back. Love hearing about the history. A little bit of an add-on to that. We went many years to Burt Lake, Michigan. It's kind of a resort town. Not really a big downtown or anything, but it's a really nice lake. And it's Evashevsky Drive, excuse me, Evashevsky Drive, where the lake houses were that we rented. And Forrest Evashevsky's, the family name was on the home, just a few homes down from where we rented. Don't know if is he still alive? I'm not sure. I think
he's passed away, but I'm not sure either.
Yeah.
Forrest, Coach, are you talking about Evie?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Evie is not still alive.
Okay, so the family, the name was on there in the Evashevsky Drive. But anyway, he was I thought he was all Big Ten quarterback at one time.
By the way, he died in 2009. So
okay.
Yeah. And I do believe he still has family in, maybe not in the area, Don, but yeah, he's one of those almost folklore type of guys. Like, he actually existed, but all we have is stories. Unfortunately, we don't have video footage because maybe there's video footage somewhere. When did video cameras become a thing, Don? I'm kidding, of course. But no, he is a bit of a myth almost in Iowa athletics history, Corey.
Yeah. And so, but back to the play and the game and I guess, Don, I wanted to ask you, well, first, I don't know, possibly Corey, but what Iowa quarterback does Gronowski remind you of? For me, he reminds me of a Brad Banks. I mean, his throwing is not elite, but it's good. It's and he's runs just really tough, like Brad Banks, with some good speed. And then lastly, Don, can you reflect back on some Iowa teams that had this kind of a sluggish passing game to start with that ended up kind of flourishing or doing really well and having a nice balanced attack? from all of your teams that you coached. Can you reflect back on one that had a similar start to the year as this one, where it looked rather anemic on the
Well, Don
passing?
thinks about that, Corey, because I'm gonna kick you out of the thing, but I want to give you your second here before I kick you out. Do you have anything to say about your man, your coach, Kirk Ferentz?
I just
I know you do. I know you can't sum it up, and this is a big moment for you. So take your time.
I just I'm proud to have Kirk Ferentz represent the state of Iowa, the program, just as I was proud to have Hayden Fry. When Hayden Fry, they asked him, "What were you thinking before Houtland kicked that field goal?" And he says, "Lord Jesus, just forgive us our sins and let us have this one last kick." I just love the quality people that Iowa sports employs, and I'm just proud to have them represent this great state of Iowa, a state that I love, that I cherish. My blood pressure, my joy just elevates every time I cross the state line and I get it back into Iowa. I love it. I'm so grateful to have grown up in Iowa. And Michigan's a great state, and I enjoy Michigan, but there's just something special about getting back into Iowa, and I love it. And I love that I'm grateful that we have such quality human beings that have been a part of Iowa athletics and Iowa in general. So,
well, Corey, I'm going to ask. We'll give Don the floor here, but appreciate you calling in and get some sleep. It's late out there in Michigan, and we got a short week to get prepped for another late night show next Friday.
Yeah, I would have been at the game tonight, but I was actually in Milwaukee all week and got back late Friday, and so I didn't make it to the game. And but I got my season tickets. I'll be in section 101, and go Hawks! I'm
Go
pumped.
Hawks.
We're gonna get it together here, Don. But I am interested, Don, if you have a team that you can think back to that kind of started off anemic on the passing game side of it and possibly got it going. I don't know if there's one that would come to mind or not, but love the show, guys. Thank you very much. Really appreciate it, and I'll listen in.
Thanks, Corey. Appreciate the call. And then also the comp. I mean, he brought up Brad Banks. I don't think Mark's got the gear athleticism-wise that Brad did, but let's address the offense first on kind of that maybe sluggish offensive passing game that evolved as the season went on. Don, can you think of a season?
One season that came to mind for me is 1989. 1989, we lost a lot of good players from the 88 team. You might recall people like Marv Cook and Chuck Hartley were on that team. Coach Nato left for K-State then. And the very next year, our starting quarterback was a sophomore. We decided, I forget who the older quarterbacks were, but we decided, I'm the guy that ultimately decided because I was coaching quarterbacks. And I decided we're going to go with Matt. And Coach Fry supported me on that. He thought that was the right choice too. But Matt took some lumps as a sophomore, as you can imagine. Was not a great quarterback as a sophomore. But the rest of the story, Matt was, as a junior and a senior, first team All Big Ten, both years. And Matt, his nickname was Matt the Rat. That's what the O-line called him. And Matt was a smart guy. And some of his best friends were in the offensive line. And they respected Matt because they knew, he's not big and strong like we are. He can't bench what we can. But in his own way, he's just as tough as we are. He's not afraid to take hard hits. And he did it. He extended plays a lot like Martin does. And he helped us get back to the Rose Bowl in 1990 when no one expected it. And 91, we were really better then, Then we were in 90. We lost at home to Michigan in a close game. Michigan went. But we had a one-loss season, lost only to Michigan. And then you might recall we went out to San Diego and tied BYU. And that's always a good question. Ask your BYU fans, okay, if you're such a good BYU fan, you might recall Iowa and BYU tied in the Holiday Bowl. So my question to you, since you're such an expert on BYU football, who caught Ty Detmer's last pass? And the average BYU fan would say they give off one receiver or another. But the truth is, Ty Detmer's last pass went to Carlos James, who played quarterback for the Iowa Hawkeyes. And we both had a chance to win the game in regulation. I forget how we messed it up. We didn't score. And then they had a chance to win the game too at the end, just as we had previous series of downs. And they failed also when they threw the pick in the red zone, as I recall. So that's a good trick question for a BYU fan. You're such a Ty Detmer expert. Tell me who got his last pass. He would assume it's the BYU receiver, but it wasn't.
Corey, I appreciate the phone call. Thank you for being here and for being such a homer. And we do have Jerry on hold. Before we get to Jerry, we do want to give a quick shout out to our sponsor, Iowa Smokehouse. We've talked about Iowa Smokehouse, but be sure you get your orders in for the football season and basketball seasons ahead. iowasmokehouse.com for a better tasting, better quality snack produced right here in the state of Iowa. Iowa Smokehouse. Use that code Hawkeyes for 15% off your order of their meat sticks, their jerky, their salsas, their barbecue sauces, their ketchups. It's all delicious. You can also follow them on social media. But shop today at iowasmokehouse.com. Use the code Hawkeyes for 15% off your order and get free shipping with every $50 order. Also, Brad Van Meter and his State Farm team down in Des Moines. See how he can save you great amounts of money on auto insurance. They've been offering people much lower rates since August 1st. You can call him and see how he can help you and your family on your auto policies and all your insurance claims, or I should say policies and potential claims. 515-256-6480 to get a free quote from Brad on Monday. You can also visit him online, bradvanmeter.com. Visit him in person at 4229 Fleur Drive. Brad Van Meter and his State Farm team down in Des Moines. All right, let's go back to our Iowa Smokehouse line. We've got Jerry on hold. Jerry, welcome.
Retry. Hey, Jerry. I want to ask about the turnovers.
Okay.
Are you worried about getting any turnovers so far this season? And if so, like, where's our D-line pressure?
Okay. Well, first of all, are you out at club? Are you out partying? Are you at the UMass after party? Are you at a players only event? What's going on?
What'd you say?
I say, are you bumping? Are you Don? How did you ask the question back at West Point? How did you guys address people who are out late partying? How did you address that, Don?
It didn't happen, so.
Never mind.
Tabs, and you're in your room in tabs.
Yeah, be safe out there, Jerry. But Don,
all right. Thank you.
Relates to turnovers and the defensive line, Don, what's your concern level right now with Iowa's ability to create turnovers?
Well, sometimes they show up when you least expect it, but. And you got to give credit to the other teams for not turning the ball over. That's their goal, of course. But good defenses generate turnovers. And right now, I'd say that's a serious flaw in our defense. We're not generating turnovers. You got to judge it over the long haul. But the ideal defense is get them out every week. And let's face it, would you rather be plus 10 at the end of the year? But the only reason you were plus 10, you know what I mean when I say plus 10, Corey?
Yeah.
You generate 10 more turnovers than you give up. Plus 10 incidentally is what we were last year in the Big Ten. 9 games with plus 10. That was tied for number one in the conference with Indiana, incidentally. So would you rather be plus 10 and be plus 1 in every game and plus 1, plus 2 in one game? Or would you rather be plus 5 against a bad team and only plus 5 in the remaining 8 games? So obviously, you'd rather do it on a weekly basis, right?
Yep.
No reason to get, I mean, the stats are misleading.
Corey,
Hey, what's up, man?
hey, we're back on.
One issue with the Iowa so far on defensively is the inability to create turnovers. I know Franklin Mendoza has the best passer rating in Cal history, I believe. How can they force Mendoza to create turnovers in that game in 2 weeks?
Oh, that's a good question, Don. I haven't switched my brain over to Indiana yet, and I'm thinking about how Cal is playing Minnesota tonight, and I'm like, Franklin. Okay, so yeah, that's a good question, Don. That was a well thought out question for 12:30 in the morning on Sunday.
Well, the best guy that comes to mind for me that played defense for Iowa, I'm talking about strip sacks, not just sacks. If you're back there and you're just to make a sack, better than just tackling the quarterback, try to get the ball out. The guy that comes to mind for me, A.J. Epinesa. He was the best we ever had, I think. I believe the Bills pay him a lot of money to do that for them. So I would simply encourage our guys, when you have an opportunity with the quarterback, jump. If you have a chance to spike the ball out with a violent thrust of a fist or a hand, do it. Let's think back to the Nebraska game last fall. Llewellyn had the sack. Well, if it didn't turn into a strip sack, I know we wouldn't have beaten Nebraska in regulation. We might have had a chance to beat them in overtime, but we'll never know. Thankfully, Llewellyn got the ball out, and we lined up to kick the field goal a couple of plays later. So turnovers do matter. Matter of fact, the lesson I've shared with the coaches, plus 1 statistically doesn't guarantee much. Plus 2 is a much higher winning percentage than plus 1. And the example I give is that Nebraska game. At the end of the game, we were plus 1 until that last play for Nebraska. We became plus 2. That set up the game-winning kick. So plus 2 is a lot better than plus 1.
So there's your answer, Jerry, and your pal there with you. They got to get home with the quarterback more, right? And today was a good start, dialing up pressure at key times. But yeah, if they can get some pressure from Aaron Graves and Max Llewellyn and Ethan Herkett, and mixing in those linebackers, making it difficult on Mendoza, or hey, frankly, this next week against Cal McManus as a guy that they faced before. They know what he's about. And he's a different type of quarterback than maybe Rutgers has had in recent time. They've had, I feel like, more of the mobile type of quarterbacks, Don. He's not necessarily, he's mobile. He's not a dual threat. He's a pocket guy. So can Iowa create those opportunities on the road would be a big start. And then, of course, heading back home for homecoming in Indiana the following week.
And let's not forget, even if you're downfield as a defender, if the ball goes downfield, maybe you do have a chance to get the ball out. And I'd just give a lot just to see a guy spike the ball out. You'll see good defenders do that sometimes. Try to get the ball out, punch the ball out. Not at the expense of missing tackles, of course, but maybe you're not the first guy to the ball. Maybe you're the next guy to the ball. If you have an opportunity to put your fist on the ball and do it, that's how you create turnovers.
Kent brings up, nice to see some man beaters on the field this week. So I would echo that. Jack in the chat, he says, in honor of 206, what's your favorite Kirk Ferentz win at Iowa? I'd have to go 2008, the win against Penn State, and dashing the dreams of Joe Pa and that Penn State team. Don, you were coaching during a lot of Kirk Ferentz's time at Iowa, but I'm guessing 2017, that win against Ohio State would be pretty high for you.
Yeah, I mean, when's the last time somebody beat Ohio State by, I think it was 19 points, something like that? It was a decisive win. People don't do that to Ohio State.
Yeah. And T. Hink says, Don, did you stay for the whole game? I can answer that question. Of course you did.
Absolutely, I did.
Michelle, what division is UMass? They are in the MAC. So that's FBS. That's D1 level. They are in the MAC. They were previously independent. Bob says, nice post game, Anthony. The Big Ten Network did a great job. If ESPN had the game, there would have been no post game because they would go on to the next game. So good to see Big Ten Network take advantage of that and have the Anthony Herring connection for Kirk's big win. Randy says, who is Iowa's playmaker? Well, we saw Seth Anderson catch a couple of touchdowns today. We saw Sam Phillips stretch the field, had a couple of explosive plays through the air, Don. In fact, Sam Phillips for the game, if you're keeping track, had 2 super explosive plays, Don. No, I'm sorry. That's not right. Is that number wrong, Don?
He had 3 catches for 75 yards.
Yeah, that's not right. She had
along of 45. So I don't know about the other 2. I can't recall.
Yeah, he had one.
Those 2 in combination were another 30 yards.
Right.
I can't remember the individual yardage on those other 2.
So Jack wants to know your favorite all-time win. I think we got that 2017, probably. That win against Ohio State.
I can go with that one.
And Mark says that his wife thinks, Don, you're cute. Should he be jealous? the comments that we get late at night, and again, it's only late at night that I would share them because, I mean, like that last caller, I mean, like, man, it's 12:30, and
I would say, Mark, you're a lucky man to have such an astute wife.
Such an astute wife. That's good stuff.
She's very kind to say that.
Lisa, thank you for being here. She says, so happy for Kirk. The tributes to him tonight were beautiful. Makes me so happy when people are celebrated. Kirk is the best. So thank you for that, Lisa. David, yes, I know that Iowa State scheduled a home and home against Arkansas State. My point is it makes 0 sense for Iowa State unless it's all about the financial aspect of it. And I just know most schools can get away with the financial side of not doing that. So why Iowa State has to do that. And John, yeah, $4 million to play at Arkansas State. Okay.
I don't believe that for a second.
Okay. You don't believe it's that much?
No. I guarantee if you line up an FBS opponent, whether it's from the MAC or from what's the conference that Arkansas State's in? I can't remember. Sunbelt. If you bring them in, probably have to pay $1 million for it, maybe more, but not much more.
Scott, thank you for the super chat. He says to beat Rutgers, stretch their defense with passing, run effectively up front, make the QB scramble when needed. I think we talked about this. I think we addressed this. But again, thank you for that super chat. Scott, let's go back to our Iowa Smokehouse line. Who's on the line?
Hey, this is Ricky again.
Hey, Ricky.
Hey, I just want to say a thing about Iowa State in that game today in Arkansas. They scored 2 touchdowns, and the ref show called them both back.
Yep.
Talk about Arkansas State Red Wolves here.
Yep. Yeah, I called that.
Yeah.
By the way, I want to apologize. I think I called Arkansas State the Wolfpack earlier. They're the Red Wolves, so I apologize for that. But yes,
they're the Red Wolves.
They're the Red Wolves. But you're right. I watched the game, and I thought that second call in the red zone that called the second touchdown was bad. I didn't think it was a hold, and the first one was probably the right call on the offensive PI. But yeah, I did not think officiating was very good, and the score will go down as an 8-point win, but would have totally changed had Arkansas State scored a touchdown on that.
Exactly. Drive. I agree. And do you think it was they're coming off a rivalry game and they're just sleeping because they have to go on the road to a G5 school?
I just think it's a recipe for disaster to play, whether it's before Iowa or after Iowa. If your non-conference game is a big rivalry game, don't be going on the road to play a G5, G6 school. I think that's just stupid. So,
but how long ago did they schedule that game?
Yeah, it's scheduled a long time ago, but the Iowa rivalry series is built in. So I'm just not an advocate for playing MAC and Sunbelt and, Mountain West teams on the road in the non-conference if you're a Big 10, SEC, Big 12, ACC team. To me, it makes no sense. Don, you want to comment on scheduling?
I just have one question about the game today, Corey. Do you have any idea where oftentimes, as you know, Iowa State we play in Ames, it's a Big Ten crew. When we play over here, it's a Big 12 crew. My question to you, realizing they're home and home, was that a Big Ten crew working the game today or not?
Big 12, you mean? I'm assuming it was a Big 12.
Sorry, Big 12.
I'm assuming it was a Big 12. Like I thought about that during the game as well. I'm assuming that was a Big 12 crew that worked that game.
It sounds like Iowa State benefited from the couple of close calls.
That's what it felt like.
Wouldn't surprise me at all if the visiting team gets their own officials.
So when they went to Ohio a couple of years ago and lost, and the infamous troll was on the sideline yelling at Matt Campbell, which I love, but whatever. And then they go at Arkansas State this year, and then in 2 years they're going to go to Bowling Green, and it's like,
oh, they're going to Bowling Green in 2 years.
In 2 years,
oh,
yeah.
Great. I can make fun of them again, and I know the Iowa State fans will get mad at me for we beat you 3 of the last 4 years. I still think it's stupid, and I would be calling out Iowa if they did it. I think it would be totally ridiculous, and I hope they lose to Bowling Green, just like I hope they would lose today. I hope they lose in 2 years to Bowling Green because I think it's a stupid series of decisions. But
as a Power 4, you can't call yourself a Power 4 school and go on the road to these E5 schools and act like you're a serious program.
As Don said earlier, it does happen, but it's very rare. And Iowa State is making it a regular thing, which makes zero sense to me.
Agreed.
All right, sir. Appreciate the phone call. Thanks for calling back.
Thank you.
Have a good night. All right. Let's see. We got a few more comments here in the chat, and we'll wrap this thing up. A YouTube user wants to know if Mark's still throwing the ball late, Don. Is he waiting too long with the ball?
Well, sometimes, yeah. But in defense of him, you can probably say that about every college quarterback that played a game today. Sometimes they throw the ball too late. You know, you want to be sure you don't throw it to the other team. So sometimes you do reload. If you're not sure, you don't throw it. And, your judgment's not 100%. Nobody's perfect in the way they play the game. And obviously, quarterbacks are taught to try to protect the ball. So there were times when maybe he wasn't able to find the receiver as quickly as he needed to. And in that regard, he threw the ball a little bit late.
Blake, thank you for being a member again, and thank you for the super chat. I was strangely cheering for UMass when they had a good play. Well, when the team is down 40, I kind of understand the sympathy. And you just hate to see all the injuries, Don. UMass was just racked with injuries throughout this blowout loss. So they'll get paid a nice chunk of change from Iowa to come to town and lose. But, boy, the health of those guys, including Mr. McGee, certainly a concern. So I wish them all the best. Scott, thank you for the super chat. KF rarely shows frustration publicly, even under tough questioning. So another reason to have respect for the man. Appreciate that, Scott. Paola, thank you for this. I'm sorry if you go by Paula, but I'm going to call you Paola because I went to school with somebody with that name. So I think that's how you pronounce it. She says, can the Hawks force Mendoza into a few turnovers? So another question about Mendoza. I'm assuming that this is not the same user because this is it looks like a female user. We had a male user ask about Mendoza here a few minutes ago, and I know this comment was a while back, so I apologize for that, Paola. But Mendoza's been pretty good, and they've just been really good since Signetti took over there at quarterback. Piecemealing. I don't want to say piecemealing. That's probably the wrong word to use, but quarterbacks that were new to the system, and they've kind of just been plug and play type players. Whether you're talking about Rourke last year or so far Mendoza, if Iowa hasn't been able to turn over the likes of a brand new quarterback at Albany and a brand new quarterback at UMass, they don't give me a lot of confidence that they're going to be able to just organically all of a sudden force interceptions. I think it starts with that defensive line, Don, creating pressure. And, hey, like last week against Iowa State, you get a double deflection, and the ball ends up going to Gabe Burkle, an Iowa State tight end. That could have easily been a pick. So sometimes it's a game of inches and bad bounces, good bounces. But yeah, anything else to add on just the challenge of weights?
I'm just saying this in general, you get what you emphasize. And if we're not emphasizing turnovers, then I'd be shocked. And my point is, it hasn't paid off yet. But that just tells me, if anything, we should emphasize it more. We got to find a way to get the ball out. If we're not winning on turnovers every now and again, or let me say it this way, those teams ranked ahead of us, we better beat them on turnovers among other parameters. As you know, Corey, turnover margin is one of the best and most reliable predictors of winning.
Paola, again, thank you for this super chat as well. How can Iowa force Indiana to commit a few turnovers? So it starts up front with defensive pressure. And then has there been anything that you've seen since Signetti took over there that has been a significant chink in the armor where they may be vulnerable? Is it quarterback play, making, tight window throws? Is it, maybe giving up pressure consistently?
I have TiVo in today's game. It's probably, what was the score? It's not going to be worth much. What was the score today for Indiana?
I can pull that up here. Let's see. By the way, Minnesota trailing Cal with 2 minutes to go in the game, 24-14. It is hard to go out there to the state of California, West Coast, and win. It just is. I don't care who you're playing. As it relates to Indiana today, the final score for Indiana over Indiana State. It was yesterday, 73-0.
That's right. Indiana State, as you know, is one of the biggest teams in the Missouri Valley.
Yeah. It is an in-state rivalry, but an overmatched program.
Yeah. They really haven't been tested. Mendoza looks like, is that his name, Mendoza?
Yep.
He's off to a great start, but they haven't been tested. And I guess they will be tested. I'll take that back. They got somebody that's good at Illinois, right? Illinois and Indiana play this next weekend.
That's going to be a game, Don, between
two
teams. Blake, thank you for the but thank you, Paola, for the super chats. Blake Gronowski actually wears his mouthpiece. If you don't have your mouthpiece in, you don't mean business. Do you agree, Don?
I do agree.
Okay.
I saw a game today, and I guarantee you, it was a Big Ten quarterback. I won't tell you what school, but I don't think he ever put his mouthpiece in. And of course, as a coach, I'm saying, officials, you got to enforce that. You're not being mean to him. You're doing him a favor. After he loses a few teeth, he'll understand. But it's just dangling the whole time he's out there playing. And I don't think mouthpieces are enforced. I saw other players on the same team. Why do I care if I tell you who? It was Michigan. Our fancy freshman quarterback, he hadn't figured out how to wear a mouthpiece yet. It's not as easy to communicate with one in your mouth. You do see a lot of quarterbacks.
Why do we need to enforce players to wear mouthpieces? Why does that matter?
You're just trying to protect them.
But that's them. That's their choice.
You're saying it should be optional?
If they choose not to wear it and they put themselves at risk, that's a personal decision, is it not?
I don't know what the Big Ten's policy is on it. Back in the old days, of course, you had to have your knee pads over your knees too, but that's changed a long time ago.
At Wimbledon, you got to wear white. Is that similar?
No.
To me, it's like if you bust your teeth out, that's your choice. If an individual program wants to mandate it because they don't want to have to pay the dental bill, it's fine. But if you want to be dumb, that's your choice to be dumb. You're not endangering others.
Well, Michigan, they had at least a couple of prominent players that were not wearing the mouthpiece. I saw that. It wasn't just one snap. It was snap after snap after snap.
By the way, Blake, thank you for this final super chat. He says, got to get going. Chat with you next weekend. Will do. And again, thank you for all the support this evening, Blake, through your super chats and your donations. Doug, thank you as well, and for being a premium member. He says, give a Rutgers prediction. I'll save my Rutgers prediction for later in the week, Don. We'll come back to that here in just a second, Doug. I promise we'll do that. We'll go quick fire on these last few comments. Jack says, what's with the team stopping plays on sacks when the QB isn't down yet? Did they add a new rule this year? That was an odd play. I know it happened with Gronowski a couple of weeks ago. I don't know. I mean, he just stopped forward progress. He's getting backed up, but he did spin out of it. Sort of unfortunate for UMass.
I think you get a quick whistle sometimes now. There's so much emphasis on trying to protect the players. The reason they blow the whistle, the quarterback, I'm sure, was a little upset because he has reason to believe I wasn't down.
Yeah.
And to be honest with you, I thought it was a mistake to blow the whistle that early.
Yep.
But they would, in their defense, they would say, we're trying to protect the quarterback. That's what they would say.
Right. Kurt says, is Luke Gaffney the next Lucas Van Ness? Well, they do have the same or similar first name. I don't know if Lucas is or Luke's real first name is Lucas. I think it's just Luke. I don't know what the comparison to him being Van Ness is, but no, I'll answer that question and say I do not believe he's the next Lucas Van Ness. But he got in there at some point here late in the game, especially, and got to the quarterback at least once. Got some good size. He's got a couple of years left in front of him, I believe. Matt says special teams was wild. Stevens all over the map. Was it Holder being an issue? Snap. Weegan rebounded nicely today. We'll have to go back and look at the tape. We talked about that earlier. I do think there was some snapping/holding issues early, but Drew Stevens has to share some responsibility for missing a kick, missing a PAT, and almost missing a kick last week. That's a fair criticism. Amanda says, what happened with Lutmer in the medical tent? Don't know, but he came back out. So he was back in there later in the game, Amanda. Go Hawks says, can the parameters Don uses to help us win statistically be adjusted to account for one potential interception per game, assuming we would let it rip more? That's an interesting question, Don. Can you adjust those numbers to account for a potential interception per game, but also account for the positives that would come from being more aggressive through the air? It's a hard one.
Yeah, it's hard to identify the value of that. I'll just say it this way. +1 last year, I don't have my information in front of me, but my recall is that +1 actually had a winning percentage of less than 50%. Now, statistically, that doesn't make sense, right? You would think, well, if you have any advantage on turnovers, you should at least win something above 50%. I believe it was 44%. Now, that simply suggests to me some of the best teams are good enough to win even if they are -1, right? They didn't win the turnovers. I used to call it the Oklahoma effect when I did analytics for the Big 12 for Kansas State. It was the Oklahoma effect because Oklahoma had an annoying habit of losing on turnovers week after week after week and still winning the game. So in that league, because of Oklahoma, it didn't carry much water. But last year in the Big 10, we had some high-powered teams. Depending on who they were playing, they might be -1 and still win the game. No doubt about it. So the point is, if you're playing somebody like Oregon or Ohio State, +1 may not get it done. You better hope for +2. +3, of course, is historically normally 100% win.
Amanda says, yeah, I saw Lutmer go back in the game. Just ironic to be injured by the medical tent. Yeah, it looked like he was because he ran into that medical tent. Now I see what you're saying. I don't know if it was because of the collision or it was just the process of going down. But he did come back in the game. Sam says it was because they were playing a bad team and they need to work on the passing game. So we'll see if the aggression that they came out with in the first quarter carries over. Thank you for being a premium member, Sam. Kent brings up how Xavier Williams was in a shoulder sling. So, they're already down Moulton. We'll see on timeline for him. But, we may see Brevendal. We may see more McNeil at times. We're definitely going to see more Jazz Patterson, and they're not giving up on Terrell Washington. So say what you want about Terrell. They're not going to give up on him at this point.
The mentality has to be next man in.
Absolutely.
You got to be ready. If you're third team, your mentality has to be, I'm 2 plays away. One goes down on one snap, two goes down the next, I'm in. Got to be ready.
John says he just joined a long game pausing injury. Sounds like was a neck issue. So certainly wish the best for that young man. And Cheese Curds, thank you for becoming a YouTube member. Great YouTube name as well, Cheese Curds. Yeah, just a great fair food, great Iowa Midwest name, Cheese Curds. So thank you for becoming a premium member here on our channel. All right, so the Hawkeyes defeating UMass 47-7 behind a strong performance from really everybody on offense. Nobody really stood out as far as playing poorly. Iowa ran the ball for 201 yards, and that, of course, includes sack yardage. Iowa giving up 2 sacks of Mark Gronowski. Hank Brown came in, threw for 55 yards following Mark Gronowski's 179-yard performance through the air. Gronowski also had 12 net yards on the ground, had 3 total touchdowns, 2 through the air, 1 on the ground. And again, Hank Brown had a touchdown. Sam Phillips was the leading receiver for the Hawks, 3 catches for 75 yards, had a 44-yard haul in. Seth Anderson had 2 touchdowns, 3 catches, 26 yards. Xavier Williams with 23 yards out of the backfield, but through the air. KJ Parker also had 2 catches for 12 yards and a touchdown. Dayton Howard had his first couple of catches of the year. Jazz Patterson had a pair of catches. Hayden Large had a pair of catches. Nate McNeil with a catch, ran for 38 yards after the catch, 32 net yards on that play. Jacob Gill had 1 catch for 15 yards. Zach Ortworth had 1 catch for 13 yards. DJ Voname had 1 catch for 8 yards. Terrell Washington had 1 catch for 6 yards. Caden Weegan with 182 punt return yards and the 95-yard punt return for a touchdown, also added a 34-yard kick return. And also saw Sam Phillips. He ended up, let's see here. Did he return it? I guess he didn't return a kick. I was thinking somebody else got a kick return early, but I'm not seeing it on the stat sheet. Don, didn't someone get that first kick return? I'm not seeing it on the sheet here. Yeah, it's not showing kick return for anybody else, but I could have swore the first kick of the day.
Terrell's listed 1 for 22 yards. Incidentally, to answer your question, Caden took the ball out of the end zone. He's credited with a 34-yard return, and the first play from scrimmage after the kick was the 34-yard line. So you do not get credit for those yards in the end zone.
It was closer to 40. So, yeah, thank you. I see that on the score sheet now, the box score. Terrell Washington had a 22-yard kick return. Drew Stevens was 2 of 3 on field goals, missed a 38-yarder narrowly above one of the uprights. He also missed an extra point, a very rare occurrence for Drew Stevens. Iowa outgained UMass 22 first downs to just 8 for the Minutemen. Again, over 200 yards rushing. And Iowa 435 total offensive yards. And the good news for Iowa, they continue to play very clean football as it relates to turnovers and as it relates to penalties. Iowa just 1 penalty today for 5 yards, just 1 penalty for UMass for 5 yards. And so, Iowa will move along to their Big Ten opener at Rutgers next Friday. And we'll kind of answer Doug's question. Don, give us some things to look for against the Rutgers Scarlet Knights. They're 3-0 against a 2-1 Iowa team, but Rutgers has not fully been tested, with the exception being a good MAC opponent in Ohio.
Well, I don't know what they average in the 3 games, but pretty sizable number. Probably averaging close to 40 points a game, I bet. I realize they haven't played a murderer's row at this point. Correct me if I'm wrong, Corey. They played 2 MAC teams, and now they played Norfolk State.
Right, and Miami, Ohio is a good MAC program that tested Wisconsin. Wisconsin was held to 17 points week 1, and Rutgers scored 45 on them. So,
yeah,
to your point, improved offensively, it appears.
Yeah, it's going to be a real test for the defense. On paper, it would be strength against strength. A high-scoring offense for Rutgers versus a defense that historically is always good. So we're gonna need some points to win the game. I don't think it'll be a low-scoring game. It'll be surprising to me if you win the game and only score in the teens. You better find a way to get up in the 20s or 30s.
Folks, our RTI Threads player of the game this evening is Caden Weegan with his 182 punt return yards and that 95-yard return for a touchdown, along with the 34 kick return yards, and had the carry, the one rush of 20 yards for the touchdown. He is our RTI Threads player of the game, and he also has our Big Groves big play of the day with that 95-yard punt return. Quite a bounce-back performance from Caden after a shaky day in Ames here a week ago. And you expect that from a sixth-year guy who could come back for year 7 in 2026. So we'll talk about that. Again, a big thank you to Big Grove for sponsoring our big player of the day and RTI for sponsoring our player of the game, Caden Weegan, taking both awards here in week 3. Well, Don, it's been fun. Always fun. I know it's late. It's like we just hit the 1 o'clock hour, so we will try to bounce back on Sunday. I'll be back with everybody tomorrow talking about this game, recapping things, giving my grades here in the coming days, and starting the preview process of Rutgers because we have a short week of prep, and then Iowa flies out there for a Friday night game on Fox. Any parting words for our listeners? Don, we'll be back live next Friday night.
Well, we get to the real season now. Let me simply mention this. If we can get by Rutgers, and that's a big if. It's going to be a challenge to beat them. If we can get by Rutgers, and now we're preparing for Indiana, I'll simply ask you this way. Would you value a win over Iowa State more than a win over Indiana? I believe if I can only win one of those two, I'd choose to beat the Hoosiers. Simply because it's a conference game. And it's a highly ranked team too. Probably, right? Indiana might get chopped down. I believe it's Illinois, right? They play this week. Pretty sure, Corey.
Indiana?
Yeah.
Who do they play?
They play Illinois, I think, this next Saturday.
Let's see here. No, you said that earlier.
I could be wrong about that.
Yeah, they play they play Illinois this coming Saturday night game as well. That game is on NBC.
Well,
yeah.
you get my drift. Regardless of how they fare against Illinois, to beat Indiana is going to be an accomplishment. That certainly qualified them. Well, let's face it, they're both ranked. So even the loser is probably going to remain ranked. And so the odds are when we line up against Indiana, we'll be playing another top 25 team. And obviously to beat them would be a nice accomplishment. And I would even value it more than a win last week over Ames.
Folks, the Hawkeyes defeating the UMass Minutemen by a final of 47-7. Thank you all for being here and for supporting our great sponsors. I don't want to miss anybody, but Iowa Floor Covering, of course, Iowa Smokehouse for sponsoring our call line and our show, certainly RTI Threads, along with Big Grove Brewery and Brad Van Meter and his great team down at State Farm. Coach Patterson and I will be back this coming Friday, but I will be back right here on the channel throughout the week as we count down the days to Iowa and their Big Ten opener against the Rutgers Scarlet Knights. For Coach Don Patterson, I'm Corey Brada from the Hawkeye of the Storm. Get some sleep, folks. We will talk to you soon.